Tell the truth.
Information is power.
Welcome to the Information Man Speaks podcast. Oh, it's the Information Man show today. Want to know how to... The Information Man show. Information Man.
Is power.
Tell the truth.
You are listening to Information Man. Please make sure to subscribe to this channel.
Welcome everybody to the Information Man show. Peace to you.
Tell the truth.
Yeah. Peace everybody. What's up everybody? Peace. All right.
Tell the truth.
Tell the truth. Tell the truth. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this podcast or broadcast today. Excuse me there. I've been doing so many videos on the second channel. Y'all got to excuse me, man. I've been grinding over there on the Information Man Speaks podcast to the point that I'm forgetting that I'm on the Information Man show, which is the first channel. And I thank all of you who have been out there supporting this channel over the years and over the months, and all new subscribers. I want to thank you for coming on over and joining what we have going on over here. You know, I usually go live on a Sunday or the weekends over here on the first channel. And then what I've got going after that, thank you for commenting and being a part of everything here. Now, you know, I'm going to tell you all to go out there and share the video just like that. Share the video on all your social media. Share the video in your community tab. If you're a content creator, push the video forward. That's how we build channels. That's how you build audiences and you build a family over here. Then we have, I would have to say, like the video, because you know how YouTube is and its algorithms. Yeah, right. If you hit it like, they tell us that it's supposed to, once again, push the video through the system. So go ahead and give it a like. As usual, like I said before, go ahead and subscribe. You can see that right there. Go ahead and subscribe. And I want to say thank you to everybody out there who's here today. And those that will be coming in, those in the chat room, those that are listening from afar, I got to give you all a clap. I appreciate it. All right. So today is going to be a dynamic program. We've got an incredible brother here by the name of Brother Shannon, who is joining me today inside the the arena of the Information Man Show. I'm going to throw some rapid questions at the brother. We're going to give you a chance to get to know him. He does have a YouTube channel, Freeman Media. Let me say it again, Freeman Media. That's right, it's explosive. Freeman Media. And we're going to talk to him about exactly what that means. Why did he come up with that particular specific title for the show? Some of the things that he has been involved in the community. This is a strong black man who keeps it real. This is how I met this brother. As you all know, I'm involved with what they call, what is this, HAPS TV. I'm right over there on HAPS TV. You can see that right up on the screen there. And he's involved in HAPS TV as well. And we go over there and we can broadcast simultaneously into all social medias. And I do mean all social medias. Now, I do a particularly different program over there because it's a whole different platform that I'm using. So I get more into political commentary. I have the whole virtual studio set up in a whole 9 yard that you can see me over there. So check me out over there, and you're going to check out brother Shannon over there as well. And all of our social medias are linked over there as well. So that's how I met this brother. I met him one morning. He goes into it early in the morning, and he was going at it about some of the social issues that we have today, some of the things that black people need to be aware of, that we're being impacted by in this world, this Babylon society we call America. And that's the truth. And you know that's the truth.
Tell the truth.
So we're going to get into it. Me and this brother, we're going to talk real talk. We're going to keep it real. Talk black to me. Only talk black to me. Talk real. Talk truthful. This is what this brother's all about. And what I'm going to do now is begin to introduce him into the bullpen right now. And let me give this brother a clap. And this is the brother that I'm talking about right here. Brother Shannon of Freeman Media. What's up, brother?
What's good with you? What's good with the Information Man?
All right, brother. I'm glad to have you on. I said I was going to have you on, and then I saw you live just a week ago. Well, we were chopping it up real heavy on what's that? HAPS TV.
HAPS TV, yep.
And we were getting into it, some heavy talk. And at first I was like, oh, brother, let's slow down. We shooting all the bullets out of the gun. But because I wanted to really capture some of that today. But you said very wisely, hey, man, we got plenty more to talk about, plenty more to touch on. So don't even trip, info. Right. So therefore, you're here with us today. Let me join you right on in here. And let me put something. Give me 1 minute. I'm going to put something up here.
You're good.
And there we go. And then I'm going to join you just like this, like so. And let's get into it, brother. Let everybody know again who you are, what brought you to YouTube, social media. You've got an incredible channel that's still growing, and I want people to definitely support his channel. I'll be dropping the link to your channel, brother, and everybody push his link throughout the show. You can find it on the description area of this video. But I want to know right now, brother, what brought you to the medium? What have you been involved in? Speak black to me, brother.
First and foremost, I want to thank you for being a man of your word, because I've been promised to be on different platforms before and they didn't quite come through. But that's okay. That's okay. As we talked briefly, you know, I guess that would be the green room right before we go in. I don't know. I started on YouTube in 2017, but I started doing Facebook Live videos several years ago. And I've pretty much spoken about the same things. You know, I just believe in black freedom. You know, I think that we need to be solvent in this territory. And I know that the space that we're in right now, people are talking about reparations.
Yes, sir.
You know, and that's gotten so convoluted. And we'll probably dive a little bit into that as we talk later. But, you know, I've always talked about black solvency, black. I want to be free. And I think the world messed me up. When I was 22 years old, I became a restaurant owner. My first job was actually in a 4-star restaurant.
Wow.
And I learned how to put food together, present food, talk to people, deal with people on that level at 15 years old. And I never went through those, and I'm not saying basic as if they were inferior, but I never went through those basic culinary experiences that a lot of my friends went through that worked at fast food restaurants. I worked at a 4-star restaurant. So my presentation of food versus the way they presented burgers and fries was different. So I learned how to appreciate that. And by the time I was 22, I had an opportunity to take over a heritage restaurant that had been in existence. And people really need to dive into this history locally as well. I was the youngest Black man to ever own a restaurant in Ann Arbor, Michigan. But the first restaurant.
Stop right there. Stop right there.
Yes, sir.
Repeat what you just said. That's powerful.
In 1991, the fall of 1991, I became the owner of a restaurant. And I was the youngest Black man in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is one of the most liberal towns in the country. But it took to 1991 for someone like myself to be a restaurant owner. We had businesses. We had plenty of businesses around town. We had businesses for decades, but they were all barbershops, car washes. There were a few restaurants, few eateries around town, but they never really let us get into that big wheel, you know. And this restaurant was a very prominent restaurant, very prominent part of town. People really didn't look at it as such, but we're talking 2 blocks from City Hall, the police station, from the county circuit court. So you were right in the heart of town. And there's a place called Carytown. If you know anything about Ann Arbor, it's basically the fresh marketplace, the farmer's market. Wow. That's where this restaurant sat. And it was a jewel. And I took pride in what I did and took pride in it. Just some unfortunate circumstances that happened within the family. And we talk about, we are our own worst enemy sometimes, and we are. Now, I'm definitely never going to discount white supremacy being a part of our detriment and being most of our detriment, but sometimes we do it to ourselves. And this caused the undoing of me being ousted from this business, and it was a family member. Unfortunately, it was my father. I'm going to be totally candid. Most people know the story, but I didn't stop there. I really like breaking my own dollar, and I didn't understand the power of it until I was able to do it on my own. And I did it at such a young age. I should have never went to work for anybody after that. I was ruined because I learned how to buy for one, sell for two at that age. Whereas people that were my age and doing that, they were selling dope. And this is not to shit on anybody that did what they did back in the 90s. But, I was selling barbecue ribs and fried chicken and fried fish. They were selling cocaine. Okay. But we were all getting money and we were doing our thing. It was just, I just had a different way of going about it. So, I became a father 3 years later, and I chose to go into broadcasting. My mother gave me an opportunity she financed me to go to broadcasting school. And within 6 months of being out of broadcasting school, I was working in, at that time, it was the number 6 radio market in the country, which is Detroit. Wow. And Detroit was powerful back then in radio. And it's been minimized, obviously, by a few things with satellite radio, internet radio, people like us taking listeners away from the terrestrial radio game. Yes. But I don't think the radio game moved the way it should have moved into this space. I think that every radio show now should be on video. I think every single air shift should be totally wired up to where people can not only hear the DJ or the personality, as they like to call them, but they should be able to see them, because that's the world we're in now. But, I did my stint there, and I had already had a love for music and a love for audio, because my mother, a lot of first in my family. This is why I don't deal with first. You've heard me talk about I hate first now. We in the 21st century. We still talking about first.
And we still talking about first. You got
I was the first. I was the youngest Black man to ever own a restaurant in Ann Arbor, Michigan, whereas my mother was the first Black woman to graduate from Specs Howard School of Broadcasting. Oh, wow. And back then it was unheard of for Black women to be DJs. If you saw a Black woman in a radio station, she was generally a secretary. But, she had a voice, and she had a gift for gab. It was meant for her. But then she also had twin boys, and then eventually my ass came. So, she wasn't able to get on the mic. So she chose to raise her boys over the airwaves, but then she put that spirit into me. And man, I was 5, 6 years old doing intros, posting audio to records and things like that, and switching records out. I knew how to do all that. We had a reel to reel, we had an 8-track machine, we had cassette, we had all that, and she recorded all that stuff too. You know, to see her do her thing in the house, it just fueled me for 20 some odd years later to get into broadcasting. So I did that, and then fatherhood hit. Fatherhood hit real hard. I needed more money. Radio wasn't really doing it, and the only way I really could have made a lot of money back then was to have left the nest. And I know that in hindsight, I should have left, probably became a bigger fish in a smaller pond, then came back home. But it was big to me that I was able to be on the air and be home, be with my family, be with my kids. So I chose that route. And I don't regret any of that, other than the fact that I wasn't able to provide for what I felt like I should have been able to provide. You know, we always feel like we have a little bit more of a worth.
Yes.
But I got into the sales and marketing game, and sold cars. I sold everything from perfume to pet food for over 20 years, and it gave me a lot of experience. I was able to use what God had given me to broadcast with this voice, this personality. And I sold a lot of products. No matter whatever I've got my hands onto, I've always been able to sell it. And it's probably because I've never really gotten too much into the product except the knowledge of it. I get more into the person. I mean, I think that's why we vibed, because you and I are totally opposite, but we on the same shit. we on the same shit. And when we met over on Haps and you jumped in, man, I think I was probably already 45, 50 minutes into my stream, just doing my thing normally. We went for another hour, you know, just because we were vibing. And I have that ability. And as a 51-year-old man now, I tell everybody, you know, I'm an onion, you know, and it depends on whatever layer you want to peel back. I think I can pretty much fulfill the needs. So I just appreciate you having me on here. I look forward to what we're going to discuss today, because when you told me we wanted to talk about Black stuff, I love talking about Black stuff, you know, and the biggest problem is that some people don't like to hear some of the things that I say, but you know, I'm not trying to condemn anybody. I'm never going to try to condemn us. I don't even try to condemn white people. I condemn white supremacy, but I don't condemn white people, you know, and only time I come at other people is generally when they come for us. So, you know, I'm all about our comeuppance, and let everybody else do what they're going to do, you know.
Well, let's unpack that right now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Because there are people out there who say, why do we use the word white supremacy? By using that word, we're giving white society too much power over us, because there are some that would say, well, white people are not supreme, so therefore, why do you say the word supreme? Now, we do recognize that there is a system that has been in place for a long time. Mm-hmm. And when you really do the math and you say, okay, what do Black people control in society, and worldwide, when it comes to, let's just say what my man Neely Fuller Jr. said.
Right.
He said that white Black people, this is the question to everybody in the chat room, as I'll bring up their comments very soon. Do Black people do we control the economic systems in America or in the world? No. Do we control military power, mighty military power within this country and the world? No. Do we control the banking systems? No. Do we control the educational system? No, we're victims of it, but we don't control it, right? Do we control the monetary systems? Do we control the housing in this country? Do we control any of these things which puts us in a position that we can take our prejudice, our dislike for people, and we can empower ourselves by affecting the way they're able to live.
Right.
So people get it mixed up. People think that prejudice and racism are the same. No, racism is a power dynamic.
Right.
It's about your ability to execute power over people. Right. Just like when you look at the movie of Raisin in the Sun, that movie was really about housing discrimination, and how white people who control the housing industry were able to say, we're not going to sell this house to these people. We're going to make sure that we overprice the house, or we don't even show them the house. Right. You even had a situation where a Black woman was married to a white man. They were trying to sell the house, and because they had pictures of her and the kid in the house, they couldn't sell the house.
That's right.
The minute he The minute he took all the black pictures out, of the son, the wife, and made it all Snow White, they were able to sell a house and get a high market value. These are the systems that maintain what we call white supremacy. And for those of you out there who are not happy about this thing called critical race theory, which race is not a theory, but critical race theory, and I'm going to go deeper into it at a later date,
Right.
is a legal term that came out of law school in terms of studying the systems of racism and how the system of racism is embedded with capitalism, because it was the triangular slave trade and the economics of slavery that fueled the American society that we have today into the industrialization. Okay, the cotton gin and all those sort of things. So I would say, brother, that although I don't look at white people as supreme to me,
Right.
they are still in a position that they can orchestrate certain systematic things within society to impact me.
Right.
Even though as a black man, because I know there are people out here on YouTube that will say, hey, don't let anybody hold you back, black man. You can do whatever you want. Yes, you do. But there are obstacles put in our way, which you have to get past those obstacles. But we are not in a position of power broking, being power brokers. Let me stop right there. I've said a mouthful, but go ahead, brother.
And you're spot on with that, with white supremacy. And I've stopped doing the disclaimers. I said, as I'll upgrade and get better on this platform of social media and content creating, I'm going to stop leaving disclaimers, because frankly, it just takes up minutes or seconds and minutes that I don't need to. White supremacy does not mean I dislike white people. Okay. I let everybody know I got beige babies. Okay. I have beige babies. My lady, she is Italian. She's looked at as a white woman. I get it, but her hair is nappier than yours and mine. So I know she's from the part of the boot where, Italian people look like black people. Do I say she's black? She's absolutely not black. She is listed as a white woman. She's listed as an Italian woman. So she's Caucasian. But she understands what I understand, and that's why we can vibe. Because if she had that same white supremacist mentality, we probably wouldn't be able to flow. One of the things that I put into perspective when I think about white supremacy, because I put it in my hashtag every time I do a video. I've been doing it on Haps, I think 3 months now. What I do, I put white supremacy in the hashtag because I can attribute white supremacy to every single thing that we have to do out here. And I don't care how black, it can get as black as you want it to be. It can be, the reason we may be doing something that way is because of white supremacy. That's why when they say we're the first this, and it's the first time we've done this, why do you think it's the first in 2021? Because of white supremacy. There is absolutely no reason why we're still experiencing first. I'm talking about basic first level sergeant, this, that, in the Army. What? Who are the original soldiers out here? How are we the first level of anything in the military? We should be generals. We should have general situations named after black people. If there had been no black soldiers, there would be no United States of America. And people don't want to talk about that. That's where critical race theory comes in. Critical race theory, to me, all it is telling history the right way. Don't just say that slavery was an unfortunate time in America. No, talk about slavery what it was. It was brutal. It was raping. It was murdering of innocent black Americans, now black Americans, but descendants, of people of African descent. But say what it was, but also talk about what slavery did for this country. And it's why I've kind of adopted the freedman name versus using the descendant of slavery name, because I no longer really want to connect myself to the institution of slavery. I want to connect myself to the institution of freedmen. Does it change who I am? Does it change my thinking? No, but it changes the way I look at it. I mean, because I'm not looking at things from a subservient level. When I talk about being a freedman, or even when I was talking about being a descendant of slavery, I wasn't talking from a subservient level. I was just identifying who I was. And then people come out and say, well, you're not black, you're this, you're really brown. Okay, well, let me get rid of that, because now they done given the term black to everybody. Our VP right now, she's the first black woman VP, but she's also one of the most influential Asians in the world. So I'm not sure exactly, is she Asian? Is she black? Is she Jamaican? Is she Brahmin Indian? I don't know exactly what she is. So since they gave black to everybody, I don't want it. I want to speak with specificity. I want to speak for my people of African descent. I want to speak for freedmen. And, I can speak and I can prove that I'm a freedman because my great grandfather was born in 1874 and he was a freedman. His parents were slaves, so they were enslaved, but he was not enslaved. He was a freedman. And I don't know anything about his parents because their identity had been stripped from them. And when he was born, he was a junior, obviously, but when he was born and he was born out of slavery, that's really where my lineage starts, from Mississippi all the way up here, Mississippi and Alabama there, Texas, there's a lot of my family that never made it north. The ones who did make it north, I know them. The ones who didn't make it north, I'd love to meet them, but we're freedmen. We're not descendants of slaves. We're descendants of freedmen. So that's really where I am. And as far as white supremacy goes, white supremacy is going to be around until we just tear this whole infrastructure down. Okay. We got to tear this whole infrastructure down. We got a president who basically had looked us in the face and said, "You got me elected. You black people, you got me elected." And the day that he took office, he signed executive orders. Since then, he signed executive orders for everybody but black people. So, I have a problem with that. I mean, I have a problem with us continuing to go down that rabbit hole of being a Democratic voter just because we're not Republican, just because we don't want to be Republican. We don't want to be associated with Republicans. Well, we were associated with Republicans just a little bit more than 50 years ago. So what's the big deal? Do we care about Democrats and Republicans? Or we care about people that are going to advocate in our interest? And I think we lost that. We lost the fact that, it matters what people do for us, not how they talk to us, how nice they are. What are you going to do for us? And we get nothing for our vote every single time out, at least in the national elections. We get nothing for our vote. So that's where I'm an independent now. I definitely won't be voting Democratic. If these situations don't change, I don't think I'll ever vote Democratic again.
Wow. Well, brother, let me go ahead. You make some very good points. Let me go ahead and say what's up to some of the good folks that are in the chat room. We've got Designed by V. She says she's cooking right now, but she's supporting what's going on.
What you cooking?
Yeah, let us know what you're cooking, sister. And we got RY saying facts, speaker. And then we've got Brittany Dunn, who's come over, and I'm glad to see her over here. Thank you, Brittany, for coming over. We got Peggy Roster, who's in the house, says she agrees. I didn't get him. And then we got Earl Owens, who says I didn't get him elected. So there are folks in here.
Thank you, brother.
Who didn't get caught up in the BS of the political game. We got T-Mac, who says, everyone get them likes up. Thank you, T-Mac, for coming over once more and supporting the program. Shaka was in here, and we've got Sister Junk Closet, who's in the house. Everybody, peace to you, sister. And make sure y'all check out her channel. She has a fantastic channel, a great channel. She's a great sister. She's very supportive of myself. And check her out. Everybody, matter of fact, write people's names down and then go over and check her channel out and other people's channel. We got Southern Breeze, who's come in the house. Southern Breeze, thank you for being here. Good sister. Good to see you in the chat room. RY, everybody that's coming in, I really appreciate that. We've got my man FIFA World and other gaming. Thumbs up. Check his channel out. I love FIFA soccer, the video game, and I love soccer in general. So I'm glad the brother came over. He goes gaming over there all the time, but he comes over here and supports the cause. We got Tanya in the house as well. And let me see what she's cooking. Tanya's in the house. She's giving thumbs up. Yeah, share the video. We got Gregory X, who's come through, saying greeting brothers and sisters. Thank you for being here. And we've got Designed by V. She says, I'm cooking Caribbean oxtails, rice and beans, cabbage, and planters or drink ginger beer. That's fantastic. It sounds delicious. That sounds like something that I would love to eat. I mean, let me clap her up for that. Fantastic. Delicious. Delicious. Bon appetit. Delicious. And for everybody who's in the chat room who's come through to support the channel, we got K Money that's just come in the house. Let me go ahead and give everybody a clap right now. Again, for everybody in the chat room and everybody out there listening to the program. Tell the truth. So we got Kelly K Money in the house. She's a supporter of the NFAC. the no effing around
That's right.
We got Pantheon Panther God in the house saying, "What's up, brother? Thank you." We got let me read what FIFA World was saying. He says, "Hi, brother. I always appreciate the support. God bless. Salute. Keep up the wonderful work. 100%." We got Jay Low Rich is in the house. What's going on, sister? Appreciate you coming on over again. Everybody,
Information is power.
I appreciate everybody coming over, and much love from K Money again. Check out Sister Junk Closet, Vernon Junk Closet. She interviews people. She's got great motivational content over there. So check her out. So let's go into another area, brother, that I want to bring to your attention. Sure. I want you, if you can, and I want people in the chat room to join in and participate in this. And Gregory X, thank you, brother, for telling everybody to smash the lights. And go ahead, and this most important announcement I'm going to make, everybody, is please share the video right now whenever you can in your social media. If you're a content creator, share this in your content in your community tab if you have one. And thank you, and like the video. Let me ask you this very important question, brother. Yes, how do you define the question of black politics? What does that mean? We just got finished talking a little bit about politics, or you did, about, you know, what black people are voting for. Now we know that historically black people are conservative. So people always say, well, you know, conservative party. No, black people were conservative even before there was such a thing as a Republican Party. Right. Why? Because we inherently have conservative values, and a lot of that comes out of the church, out of religion, out of our beliefs on how we carry ourselves. And I want to give a disclaimer here to some of the bullshit that I've heard. Mm-hmm. When you watch these slave movies, which I really don't like,
right?
They always portray black people as having this broken English. Right. That's actually not completely true, because black people were always very much into how we dressed, how we talked. You can look at old clips, and you talk to your grandfather and your grandmother, and you see how they are, where they'll say, I want you to go to school, get education. I want you to be more than a sharecropper, right?
Right. Right.
They always wanted us to talk better. So when black people get into this crazy ideology that it's nothing wrong with broken English, it's nothing wrong. This is how black people talk. When you go back and you look at black people in the 20s and the 30s, the one thing that they always took pride in, and my man Ghost OG J Speed in the house, in the chat room, he knows what I'm talking about. We always took pride in our dress and how we talked. Yeah. How many times when you were growing up, brother, did your father or your grandfather or whatever your family dynamics were, how many times were you told, boy, pull them britches up? Boy, you ain't going out the house like that. Boy, that's not how you talk. I don't want to ever hear you talk like that. Even though we talk slang, I did, when you were around your boys. But when you got around certain members of the family, you knew you couldn't. So this idea that that's acceptable in the black community, that's bull crap. Right. See, America is famous. A Negro or a nigga can only be created in American society. Mm-hmm. Go right ahead, brother.
So, and there's a lot to unpack with that, but I'll start with broken. When they start talking about broken English, okay, just look at the term. You know, black people weren't allowed to read.
Right.
We weren't allowed to learn how to read. The only document that they gave us permission to read was the Bible.
And it was a slave Bible, which was edited.
It was a redacted document.
Right.
it was a redacted document that they gave us the ability to read. Now, if that was the first document that we really had at our disposal to read, how did we learn how to speak slang? How did we learn how to speak broken English? See, this is all a ploy too. We talk about the broken dialect and the bugged out eyes and different things like that. All that stuff was made up by white people. Black people cared about two things. Like you said, we cared about how the way we looked, the way we presented ourselves, and we cared about the way we spoke. Because what we wanted to do, unfortunately, we wanted to emulate white people. They had basically been deemed like, it. So we wanted to be like them. But it was crazy to me that we wanted to be like them, even though we did every single thing. I did a clip about a week ago, and I talked about all the things that we've invented that we can't get through a day without using things that Black people invented, like just basic things. I'm wearing a T-shirt right now because I got the AC going because a Black man invented the air conditioner.
Stop right there. See, that's what I'm saying. If you were to take, and let me say what's up to Sir Drop TV. That's my man in the house. We got clubs. We got a club den in the house. Y'all check out this sister's channel. Very fun channel, very educational channel. Excellent program she has over there. So check her out. We got a Southern Breeze saying code switching, but that's the thing. Imagine if Black people, and I'm gonna have you continue though, brother. But I got to say this: if Black people would have disappeared, let's say we just disappeared yesterday, or the continent of Africa had disappeared, and we never existed, where would American society be in the world today? When much of the world was built off of our people's backs, our intellectual property. The light bulb was actually invented by a Black man. He got the patent stolen. They tell you it was Thomas Edison. That's bullshit.
Tell the truth.
Lewis Latimer. That's the man. I mean, we have Detroit Edison here. It should be Detroit Latimer. I mean, he invented it. But it was stolen because we couldn't have patents, because we weren't allowed to have patents, because anything that we created, they stole. They stole it from us. So,
for example, I'm looking at my phone here, and I should have put this picture on the screen for everybody to see. The cell phone that everybody loves today was created by Henry T. Sampson.
Yeah.
The original creator of the cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm putting his picture right up here. Let me go front and center real quick. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. That Black man right there. I know y'all can't see it. I may see if I can run it through the system for y'all to see. So let me get back to my dear brother here and let him finish where he's going. But I had to say that because it goes back to what we're saying. Where would the world be if Blackness didn't exist?
Lost. Unfortunately, we weren't given the credit for anything. And like I said, we didn't get the patents. So we didn't get the right to even expand on our genius. See, there were so many people who had multiple patents. And one of the things that I always like to go to, the term the real McCoy. I mean, there's people who have shows called the real McCoy. And it was a train component that, kept locomotives together. And when they didn't, I don't know exactly how it all broke down. I wasn't there. But when they couldn't get the real McCoy, they started making a knockoff. Knockoffs didn't just start in Korea and Taiwan, whatever, and all that. They didn't start there. Knockoffs started way back when the real McCoy was making locomotive parts. And when they couldn't get the real McCoy, they made a knockoff part. And so somebody came along and said, look, man, this ain't helping. Our trains are either derailing, whatever the situation was. They said, we need the real McCoy, because it was a brother named McCoy who had created that part. That, and I don't know the logistics of it. One thing I'll never be called is the data man. You are information man. There's people out here about the data. I know things. I know enough about things to speak on them.
Yes, sir.
But I don't know all the logistics there. But I do know that brother McCoy, he died right in the city that I'm sitting in right now. They said he died penniless in Ypsilanti, Michigan. I've never done any history on it, but I was told that a couple months ago that the brother who created that tool, and they got that term, the real McCoy, died right here in Ypsilanti, Michigan. So it's very odd to me that all of this history has come and gone. We've got, there's the Underground Railroad stuff that they talk about in Ypsilanti, Michigan, but they never talk about the real McCoy. Because why? That would give him too much credit, and then that would make white supremacy look racist, and they don't want to be looked at as racist. That's this whole thing about critical race theory. Most people aren't going to talk to you about the real McCoy. They're going to say, hey, give me that real McCoy. They'll never tell you where the term came from, because that talks about the brutality and all of the negativity that white people cast upon Black people. That's all that is. I mean, nobody wants to look that guilt in the face. Nobody wants to look 246 years of detriment in the face and then another 156 years of detriment. I mean, just because we're not enslaved, we're in shackles, doesn't mean that we're free, because we're not. What they just had them clowns go to the White House for voting rights. We still fighting for voting rights. Voting rights is 1865. So it was 1965. Now we still fighting for voting rights in 2021. We still fighting for the same shit we were fighting for when we were freed.
Right. So I know I kind of asked you a mushed up question. So getting back, and great points, brother, getting back to the original question before I added all this other stuff to it, of black politics. We know that black people are conservative by nature. Do you think that our black politics is really working for us today? Anytime, because this is the deal. When you look at other groups like Asians, for example, who got this bill signed in their behalf, even though they'll tell me and you, oh, this was really about, anybody that's discriminated against as it relates to the virus, right? Mm-hmm. The fact of the matter is, when you look at the Chinese and other racial groups in this country, they don't give their allegiance to any one of these political parties, whether it be the Demon Cracks or the Republican Klan. Mm-hmm. What they simply do is they assess who's going to give them what they want, and then they make a demand, and they never let up off that demand. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, within black society, our black politics has somehow been hijacked,
absolutely,
and manipulated, and we don't have black leadership, right, if any. And first of all, you should be looking for yourself first as the leader, not some individuals, but those that are in office that are black, such as the Congressional Black Caucus, they are not, in my opinion, doing enough. How can you tell me that black people were in America for over 500 to 400 years?
Right.
We've been getting lynched. We've been getting hurt. All sorts of things have been happening to us with cops killing black men, black women as well. And they couldn't get the George Floyd bill passed because the Republican Klan won't jive with it. They won't go along with it. So they tell us. So they can't pass that bill, even though everybody says they're so sorry and they feel so much for the Floyd family and what happened to Floyd. And then what they do, which is what black people always fall into, is they give us symbolisms. What are those symbolisms? Now they want to build statues of Floyd and monuments to Floyd. No, where is the crime bill, right? And then they want to give you a bill to enforce things on the books that are already on the books that should have been enforced when the man was killed in a way he was killed by the police. You have James Byrd in Texas, who was dragged and pulled apart. That's the last time I can remember them using the legitimate hate crime bill as was already written. Right. Then we've got this anti-lynching bill that can't get out of committee, or it can't get passed because you got Paul or whatever his name, one of these politicians who doesn't want to pass it. So once again,
Rand Paul.
Thank you, sir.
Right.
So Rand Paul,
Tell the truth.
And the the Democrats are just sitting back, very passive,
right?
And they can't pass anything that identifies black people,
right?
But yet, when the Asians in this country were saying that they were being hated on, they were able to pass the bill for them just like that between the Democrats and the Republicans. But check this out, and I've said this before on other broadcasts. Isn't it funny how America denounced the treatment of Asian people in America, but they never denounced the treatment of how China was treating the African man poorly, kicked him out of their country and said, the Africans brought this virus over here. Then you have American black people who are living abroad in China, who are being treated poorly, like the incident at the McDonald's in China, where they said they weren't going to allow any black people into the McDonald's. I didn't hear anybody in American media come out and denounce China for his treatment of American citizens who were living abroad, or how they were treating the African by blaming Africans for the virus. But yet they were able to come out with a bill to say this bill is to protect Asian people who are being accused of being the spreaders of the virus in America.
Right.
You see the hypocrisy, my brother?
Absolutely. And the biggest thing, and I apologize to your
No, it's
listeners,
okay.
and hopefully everybody understands where I come from with my perspective. You would ask me about, white supremacy, and I went off into a whole nother lane. I tend to try to boomerang it, but I'm also trying to be short-winded here today because it's not my show. So I want to come back quicker than I normally do. But one of the things that you asked me about white supremacy, and then what we talk about, like the inventions and all of the things that we've done here, they've managed to minimize us in such a way to where it makes us look like we've only ever been laborers to a person that comes over here now. Black Americans, okay, and I'm going to use this just to be concise. I'm not going to say freedmen's, descendants of this and whatever. Black Americans, Native Black Americans, are looked at as a working class. And every now and then you'll find a few that slip through the cracks, and we're not only fortunate, but talented enough to get to an upper level in this country, generally through the entertainment field, generally through the athletic field, and sometimes through professional, whether it be attorneys and doctors and things like that. On the grand scale, we don't have nearly, if we're 14% of the population, 14% of the attorneys in this country are not Black. If we're 14% of this population, 14% of the physicians and nurses are not Black. And that's been because we've been systemically held back, not because we haven't wanted to do better, not because we haven't wanted to feed our families, not because we haven't wanted to be affluent. We've been held back. We were held back for 246 years, and then another 155 years. We gave white people a 400-year head start. So when a white person complains to me about the shit that they can't do because of politics, I'm sorry. You fucked up your 400-year head start. If I had that same 400-year head start you'd have, you'd be working for me. That's the way I look at that. Right. So when people complain that the systems don't work for them and they're white, hey, I don't know. You had the connection. You had the connection. I didn't have that connection initially. And I know I'm not all the way back in the 60s and the 50s and before, but I experienced just enough in my adult life that I know for a fact I can see why people didn't make it in the 60s and the 50s and the 40s. I mean, I've experienced all of the hell. We were just talking about it's going along line now. They're trying to get rid of it where employees can't talk about their salaries. They don't want employees to talk about their salaries, brother, because now it's coming out that for years, not for years, for decades, not for decades, for centuries, they've been paying Black people differently than they've been paying white people. But now, since it's all public, they're like, we want to change this, because I was literally always told, don't talk about your salary, what you get paid here. And I was always wondering, like, why? But because I've had mostly sales jobs, I never really had a lot of high paying salary jobs. I was mostly commission based. But even that, I was told, don't talk about what you make. Why? Because once I got a little bit of experience in the game, my percentage was a little bit higher than the percentage of somebody else. But little did I know, that dude's percentage was higher than mine. And the reason it was higher than mine, not because he sold more cars, not because he had been in the business longer, because he knew the manager. And that manager was white and he was white, and that's what made the connection.
Right. Brother, let me go ahead and read a few things that people are saying in the chat room. We got Mrs. Awake, barely awake, saying facts. If I got her name correct, we got RY in the house saying Freeman's Media, giving you a clap. Let me see, who else do we have here? We got RY saying cut the check, sign the legislation designed to protect us. And we've got Sister Junk Closet saying whoa. And then we've got let's see who we have here. Friddle saying finally found you guys, I'm in. Hey, thank you, brother. Thank you for being here and participating in the chat room. We got Tanya in there participating, saying that's messed up. So I think that I think that
time and roll it out the way you need to.
I think black politics. We say this a lot on YouTube. I hear it a lot, and I sometimes I say, when are we going to get on code? I think in order to have black politics, you have to have a black agenda that we can all get on board. What does that mean? For example, I'll say this. I'm a member of an organization. I've been in rooms with powerful black men who are of various religious backgrounds, political backgrounds, and affiliations, right? Mm-hmm. And when we close doors and we close rank, we're able to agree on everything that we want to do, despite our politics, our religion, and everything. Right. So we know that if we can do it as a brotherhood, we can do it as black people. Mm-hmm. But too often, when it comes to us being on code, when it comes to politics or the idea of when you talk about reparations, you got black folks out here, believe it or not,
Tell the truth.
unbelievable, who say we don't need no reparations. You can't be that way, because if you look at Jewish people and other ethnic groups, they always find they will unite on anything that benefits all their people despite their views. So you always find a Negro.
Right.
Like Malcolm X says, whenever a black man speaks and speaks his mind, I'm trying to channel my inner Malcolm X. Whenever a black man speaks and speaks his mind, the white man will always find a Negro to try to discount what that black man has said.
Absolutely.
So if black people say, let's unite under the guise of getting reparations, under the guise of voting in a block, under the guise of doing A, B, and C, you will always find an Armstrong Williams. You'll always find a Larry Elders. You'll always find a Candace Owens, or a what's the guy that's on YouTube, the ex-cop, whatever he calls himself.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. I got you.
You'll always find these outlier Negroes who will say everything opposite of what's in the best interest of black people overall. And they will do it because they get a lot of attention from white America that gives them their butter biscuits and pats them on the head and say, oh, thank you for saying that. Now here go your butter biscuits. Right. And they'll get a lot of views and a lot of attention paid on them. And then what they do when you confront them, the black conservatives that think like this, because there's different types of black conservatives, what they do is that they always bring up black on black crime. They'll bring up Chicago. They'll say, black people, we got to stop they'll tell you everything that you know that we need to stop doing and everything that we need to do. But they'll say that which white conservatives can't say because they'll be called racist for saying it, right? So when it comes to our politics, the same. We always have outliers who want to muddy up the waters when it comes to us just saying, let's unite, because you'll have a black conservative that'll say, oh, why you guys want to unite? Why you want to call yourself the black this and black that? Come on, we're all Americans. Stop saying that. You're American. So they muddy up the waters with their gook and junk. And that's just the truth right there, brother. I want to say, what are your thoughts?
Tell the truth.
Black politics. And you asked me about this, like really to kind of define it. It's politics that speak with specificity. Now, I believe that there's two levels of black politics. I believe that there has to be politics for Native Black Americans. Then I believe that there has to be politics for black people in general, because I don't disregard black immigrants. I don't disregard anybody with melanin in their skin for being black. But there's two things that you have to take into consideration. Their people weren't enslaved on this territory. Their people's bones aren't buried here. They don't deserve reparations when we start talking about reparations. And they feel like that they can just throw anybody with melanin in and say they're black and they deserve reparations. You may have received some marginalization, some racism, some different things like that. But if you are not a descendant of enslaved people, you do not deserve reparations. So when I talk about black politics, I believe that black people need to be determined a protected class, just like Native Americans. Native Americans are a protected class of people. Now we know Asian Americans are a protected class of people. Now we know that Pacific Islanders are a protected class of people. American Jewish people are a protected class of people. Why aren't Native Black Americans a protected class of people? The people that built this country. We were not only the first currency in this country, we were the first stock traded on Wall Street. If they want to talk about first, Let's go back to talk about the real first. And that's where black politics has to come in. We have a whole different set of politics. You know, I mean, there's certain things that we can't just be in the American political structure. That's why this whole voters' rights thing, this is just a sham. This is nothing. You know, I understand shutting down voter stations and moving them way out to rural areas where people on public transportation can't get to them. I get all that. But let's say we can get to all the goddamn voter registration boxes and this, that, and the other and do all that. Who we elect, if they don't advocate for us, it doesn't matter. I don't give a fuck if they allow every single American to vote from home, put it in their mailbox, put your red flag up, and that's the way we do it. If it doesn't work for us in the end, it's not for us. So why are we doing it? It doesn't matter about how many voters' rights we can have. It matters what happens when that politician get in. Now, when you talked about the black politicians, we have very few black politicians who advocate for black people. They advocate for people of color. They advocate for minorities. They advocate for illegals. They advocate for gays, but they don't advocate for Native Black Americans. Sheila Jackson Lee, one of the worst districts in the country. Maxine Waters, one of the worst districts in the country. God bless the dead. Cummings and Lewis had some of the worst districts in the country. We look at some of these people who are in the CBC, that are in the CBC, and they keep getting voted in and get voted in. Who the fuck is voting these people in with their districts looking like they look? Jim Clyburn. Jim Clyburn has been adamant against reparations in South Carolina. How the fuck does Jim Clyburn keep getting voted in by all them black folks? I know him frying fish ain't getting him voted. I don't know what kind of cornmeal he's putting on that shit when them people go down there to his big fish fry and they get ready to vote for somebody like Joe Biden. Joe Biden said he was not going to feel responsible for anything that happened in this country 300 years ago. And y'all sat there and looked at that man and said, you're the man for us. Right. You're the guy for us. Joe Biden put your mama, your daddy, your uncles, your aunts, your grandmas, your grandpas in jail in 1992, not 1994, 1992. 1992 came across with qualified immunity. Then the crime bill came in 1994. That started locking them away. First, they gave the police the right to kill people and say, oh, man, I feared for my life. Then they start locking us up and throwing away the key. Joe Biden, that was 1992 and 1994. But now he's our president in 2021. What the fuck are we doing out here? I mean, he literally killed generations of people by putting them in prison.
Well, the thing is that when you bring those real, very real realities up to black people who are caught and bamboozled by the fact that he chose a black woman who either sometimes wants to be black and other times wants to be East Indian, or sometimes the media doesn't know how they want to define her. And then when you do the history of her background, she comes from her mother comes from a very high class, elite class within East Indian culture. Her father is actually Jamaican. You didn't hear much of them. You didn't hear much talk about him. And he's an educated man at Stanford, a professor. A lot of black women in particular, black people in general, got caught up emotionally in the idea of there being a black vice president. And we got and what they do to us, and I've said this, and everybody in the chat room knows I constantly say this, that black people are addicted to symbolism, and we're addicted once again to symbolism. You had the ceremony with the sister who survived, 107 years old, Miss Fletcher, who survived the Tulsa, Oklahoma massacre. We had that about a month or two ago. There was all this celebration around it. They brought her before Congress. They stood up and clapped for her, gave her all the accolades. Once again, I'm going to say they stood up and clapped for her like that, right? She told her story. But nobody said anything about reparations. You need to have reparations. We're going to give you reparations. We're going to cut and slice a check. Oftentimes people that are against reparations, even within the black community or black society, will say, well, how are you going to identify who was a slave? Here you have a living ancestor of the Tulsa, Oklahoma, her along with her brother and there was no check for them, check cut for her for reparations. Now there was this shady committee that they created in Oklahoma that was supposed to be this committee put together to put that museum up. And at one point in time, Miss Fletcher, along with her brother and other people who had her interest, said, okay, we're not showing up for no goddamn parades.
Right.
We're not showing up anything for you to just make money off of us.
Right.
And then they came up with this $100,000 that they gave her, right? But it was because they protest to get that money. The federal government, when she goes and talks before Congress, didn't give her a dime.
Right.
The president himself, who has the power through executive order, he goes down there and he does all this talking, and black folks are smiling and got their buck teeth out and their cornbread hands waiting for the cornbread. And Joe Biden talked about other groups, talked about other immigrants, began talking about other groups in his speech and sounding like he was on a campaign move again, and never said out of his mouth to the descendants and to Miss Fletcher and those that are here, I'm going to create an executive order or something of that nature to make sure that you get a reparations check. They gave reparations checks to the Japanese who had descendants who were put in camps when they were citizens. They give checks to the Jewish population who were impacted in Germany, and also Wall Street in America made money off of investing in the Holocaust. They cut them a check. They cut Native Americans a check where they pay billions of dollars for health care for Native American tribal sovereign tribes on land.
Right.
They've done all these things. I've done the research.
Right.
They give foreign aid to countries and other countries, our tax dollars.
Right.
The United States pays more in foreign aid and what they pay in the military budget than what it would be to cut black people an annual check of $125,000 annually, plus exempt us from paying taxes, plus exempt us from military service and things of that nature. And you don't hear anybody talking about it. Now you got Brother Coates, who's going over there to Howard with the sister who just left UMC, Nicole. They're going to go over there and create a media pipeline at Howard University, who was very nasty to Felicia Rashad because she showed some loyalty or some love to Bill Cosby. On the other hand, okay, nobody liked that. So Nicole's coming over there with a Nazi coat, whatever his name, the brother that's been talking reparations. But then this is a Negro who got up there in that committee, that watered down committee, saying nothing and being about nothing and talking about a study. Now, brother, let me put a drum roll on this for everybody to hear. The year that the study was introduced by John Conyers, we're in the year 2021, aren't we?
Correct.
Aren't we, brother?
Correct.
It's and we're in this what is this, July, right, of summer 2021, right? Here comes the breaking news.
Information is power.
John Conyers introduced the bill in 1989. I was just in college at that time. I'm a 51-year-old man. In 1989, I was 19 years old. Do you understand what I'm saying? John Conyers himself admitted that they didn't even want to put it in committee, that he couldn't even get it in a committee to talk about it. And now, here we are in the year 2021, and they had a meeting just a year ago, I believe, on television in the Capitol, and these people are still talking about, let's have a study for the HR 40 bill. What are you talking about?
Right.
It was introduced in 1998. I'm 51 years old, same age as you.
Yes, sir.
Why is it taking this long to have a study when you got John Hope Franklin? You got Eyes on the Prize. You got all type of data and documentation from slave voyages. You got documentation that showed the first slave ships that hit Virginia and North Carolina. You got document logs. You got title companies that made money off of it that exist today as corporations, right? They have dug up bones of black people in New York that were buried underneath skyscrapers when they tried to build the skyscrapers. We've got all type of data. We got scholars like Dr. Leonard Jeffries in New York. We got scholars like the great late Ivan Van Sertima. We got all type of scholars that have laid out all the data to show that black people were done wrong, not only in slavery, but then we have documents that show that we got our land ripped off in American society, doing Jim Crow, redlining, slave auctioning off, slave. What do you call that? In prisons, they were
like detainment camps.
Yeah, they would put black men in, and when they would arrest black men and put them in prison,
okay,
they would let different states use their labor.
Farming out the help, right?
They were farming out the help, right? Then you had the slave patrols, which policing came out of in this country. So you have all this body of history, plus the fact that in the year 2021, they did a study saying that when black people apply for a business loan to get more money to expand their existing business, not a business that they're trying to create, but an existent business. Black people are turned down for that loan at 54%, while white people are only turned down by a tune of 24%. That's facts.
Tell the truth.
Now I put it right back over to you, my brother.
So, which direction you want me to go? We can talk.
Let's go to this. Let's go to this direction, brother. Let's go to this direction right now. Let's talk about black culture. We saw the embarrassment, which was in my opinion, the BET award show or buffoon show. I would rather call it a buffoon show. And how our image as men is being diminished. If you are a masculine man, you are now being we're toxic. We're toxic. So now if you're a feminine man or you're of a certain lifestyle, you should be celebrated. If you are a masculine black man, now you are seen as a criminal. You're seen as dangerous right now.
Right.
Our image is being distorted. And our culture, we have kids growing up that think that our culture has everything to do with rap music and twerking and foul talk and slang talk and hip hop and all this type of other nonsense. Take it from there, brother. You have kids and stuff like that. Absolutely. And I have a child as well, so we know how this can impact our kids. But go ahead.
Absolutely. And this goes back to the statement I made either the last entry or entry before. A lot of these people who look at us this way and think that this is the way Native Black Americans act on a regular basis haven't been in this country probably more than 50 years. See, if people go back to when Black Americans, we and I get tired of saying this, we created all this shit. Okay. We created the entertainment industry. You know, it was built off the backs of black people. I mean, and it's unfortunate, blackface and all that stuff that gets the run, but give credit where credit is due. You ain't heard about nobody ever getting rich off of doing whiteface, but people got rich off of doing blackface. Okay, so, you know, and there's certain things that came out of the entertainment industry years before or decades before, they play out today. And where black men, when we are looked at from a masculine standpoint and we are deemed toxic, then we have a person like a Terry Crews. I'll get to the BET Awards in a minute, but we have a person like Terry Crews who every time he gets on TV, he wants to pop his pecs. He wants to pop his pecs. He wants to just skin and grin. And he does a great job of speaking against black people on a regular basis. And it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate that we have people like that getting to that level. Same thing with politics. Once they get to that level, they ask for our votes, they demand our votes, they get our votes, but then they don't advocate for us. Same thing with a lot of entertainers out here. Black people raise them up. You wouldn't be anything if you didn't get raised up out of the hood. And once you get up out of the hood, now you want to switch. Now you want to get to that other side. And it's unfortunate that that's what happens because They show us the lights, they show us the camera, and they show us the action. And the action is the money. Once we get that money, and I'm talking about individuals, I'm not talking about as a collective, because as a collective, we ain't got shit. But the individuals, most of those people stay away. They don't come back and try to uplift Black people. They stay away. And unfortunately, they let stuff like the BET Awards of today happen. You look at the BET Awards in 2001. Look at the BET, look at the or 2011 and the BET Awards in 2001. It's totally different. It's totally different. It's not just the apparel has changed or the music formats have changed. You didn't see Black men kissing each other in the mouth 20 years ago because it wasn't necessary. But there were gay performers on stage. There were plenty of gay performance, male and female, 20 years ago at the BET Awards. But why today do they have to come out, body all oiled up, dancing on each other, this, that, and the other? We know Lil Nas is gay. We know Lil Nas is gay. Lil Nas said he was gay. He was good. Okay, be gay. We have no problem with you being gay, Lil Nas. Right.
Well, let me say this.
Go ahead.
Let me say this. I'm going in the area that you're going, and it's going to be short.
Yes, sir.
First, for anybody that's watching the program, people have the right to be who they want to love and be with who they want to be. So we're not. That's not my argument. My argument is that Nas has already come out and said, "Okay, I'm gay."
Right.
But the thing that bothers me, this is what they do. When they portray masculine Black men, they portray us as hypersexual and over the top masculine, which is toxic, as they would call it, right? Which I don't like.
Right.
So this is what they do to Black men. When Black men are gay, they do the same thing on the gay side of it. That is, they make that Black man over sexual, over feminine, over the top.
Right.
So it's obvious to me, because these entertainers have handlers, that once Nas came out to us, okay, we know you're gay. You were dancing and on the devil. Okay, we know that. Now we know you're gay. People still buying your music. Okay. Why is it necessary to keep reminding us that you're living this lifestyle by putting a crescendo on it, by getting up on a show and kissing another man live on television? Damn if there's little kids watching. Damn if you got family there watching, because this is my position on it, brother. I don't, because you're going to have somebody watching this who's gay or LGBTQ talking about, oh, you're only hating on gay. No, I don't want to see heterosexual people, which is why I didn't want to see. I like women. I'm a straight guy, but I really am getting tired of seeing women, particularly our Black women, twerking their behind around back and forth. I'm particularly getting tired of it. It's getting old. I don't want to see even heterosexual people on television, tongue all down throat, putting it out there, because I don't even think that our young people need to be seeing that type of animalistic sexuality. You know how they grope and they do all this over the top stuff on television. I don't even want to see. I don't think our kids need to see it either way, gay or heterosexual, if it's done in a very demonstrative manner, right in your face. I don't want to see it. So that's for anybody out there saying, "Oh, you're only talking about." No, I don't want to see it on either side, because they do it in a very distasteful manner. So every time artists like Nas X come out with something, we should expect that he's got to show us and remind us that he's gay. And I'm saying we don't need the reminder. Hello, we got the memo already, brother. I think your video with the devil told us everything we need to know.
Tell the truth.
I'll stop there.
So when you, and we're getting stuck on Lil Nas, but
there's other things.
I will get off of that and go into, the realness of this. I didn't have a problem with Lil Nas, like I said, coming out saying he was gay. I don't have a problem with Lil Nas. Hey, you want to show up to award shows with your mate and this, that, and the other? Do that. which I've yet to see. So I have something to say about that as well. So Lil Nas said he was gay. Okay, so now you're going to be gay. You're not going to be a gay rap artist. You're going to be a rap artist. You were signed to a record deal. I don't know what company he's with, but you were signed to a record deal to be a rap artist, not to be a gay rap artist. Now, here's the thing too with that. When he signed his deal, did that record company know he was gay? Because I know that this industry is very homophobic. So did they know he was gay? And then after that, when he had his internationally known #1 song, he broke records with Old Town Road. One of the worst rap songs I've ever heard in my life. And I've only heard probably 2/3 of it still. I still haven't heard the whole song. I wasn't interested in hearing the song. But I didn't have a problem with him coming out with something marginal that everybody else lauded as great. I didn't have a problem with him actually going to schools and singing this nursery rhyme like song.
Because that's what it was.
I didn't have a problem with all of that until I started seeing him show up with like little feminine outfits and things like that. And that confuses little children and things like that. And this ain't got nothing to do with just wearing pink, because hell, I wear pink. So it ain't got nothing to do with wearing pink. But it was just, he would show up with little feminine bullshit and I'm thinking to myself, that's not really school children friendly. That's not really 3rd grade friendly. But let me just continue on there. I didn't have a problem with that shit. I didn't have a problem with his international schoolhouse tours singing Old Town Road. What I had a problem with was when everybody came out and started talking about Lil Nas going around to these schools, this, that, and the other. And Lil Nas came out and said, well, y'all didn't say nothing when, I wrote that song and it's about having sex with a man and drinking lean. Now, I don't have a lyric sheet here for Old Town Road, so I don't know, but he said that that's what the song is about. Old Town Road is about drinking lean and having gay sex. But you position that song towards children. So you're promoting the drinking of lean and gay sex to children who don't know sexuality. They just know, nothing. They really don't know nothing.
Right.
So why would that be your main focus as an artist, not a gay artist, but as an artist to put that out there? We had things back in the day, shit. Remember Prince albums? You play the motherfuckers backwards and he was talking and shit when you played them up. We had hidden messages and all types of music back in the day.
Right. Well, brother, let me, like you said, not to belabor the Nas X, because he's just one of a many artists out there.
Sure.
That and see, and there's always going to be somebody that's going to say, "See, y'all only focusing on Nas because he's gay." No, there's other artists that I'm sick of. I'm sick of Cardi B, the Megan Stallion. I'm sick of the whole stripper culture that they're pushing forth on our female children, and we got even some of our women and even black people talking about this is empowerment for women. No, it's not. It's another throwback to exploiting the sexuality of women. The only difference is today is that a lot of these women now that are in the entertainment industry like them, they can exploit their own sexuality without a man making them to do it, and they can make a buck out of it, and they'll do it when back in the 90s they would get mad at us and say, hey, why you listening to Two Live Crew? Why you listening to that? They calling us a B and a this and that. Well, nowadays, the ladies are calling themselves a B. They don't even need our assistance in this. And that's bad for the culture. So with that said, because we're balanced here. We talk about everybody. We're balanced.
Right.
With that said, where do you see, because you have kids, you have a daughter, where do you see black culture evolving itself since pop culture has such a strong influence on the way our kids are? You see how our kids are today. You see how kids are dressing, how they're talking, how they're acting. That all comes out of pop culture. Where is black culture going, if we even have a black culture anymore?
Black culture has been hijacked. Unfortunately, we don't. And this set that we're doing today, it's about controlling our own narrative. We really don't control our own narrative. I looked in the chat as you were speaking, and we talked about when Bob Johnson, when he sold BET and sold it to Viacom, which is just a mutt of a company. I mean, a Viacom is a mutt. It's a monstrous mutt. Okay. I mean, it owns everything. So BET was just something that they just acquired, because everything else that they owned did not perpetuate positive black culture. So what they've taken and done with BET is they now perpetuate negative culture as well. And all of these networks, you look at BET before Bob Johnson got rid of it, we had news programs. You know, we had real sit down and talk, whether it be with entertainers, politicians, physicians, attorneys, whatever. We had real dialogue exchanging there. We don't have any of that on BET. Now, if it's Martin episodes, it's the Parkers, it's whatever dead sitcom that we don't have on anymore. And then a whole bunch of Tyler Perry shows. And then you'll run an award show through there every few months, whether it be the gospel awards, the BET awards, the hip hop awards, and they give us that as our entertainment platform. But what's entertaining for me is information. And I can't get information from BET anymore. I can't get information from TV One anymore. I have never been able to get it from Bounce, which was supposed to be owned by Magic Johnson. I've never been able to get it from Revolt, which was supposed to be owned by Sean Combs. They don't give us platforms, and then we have information coming from them. They want to entertain us with bullshit.
Tell the truth.
They want to entertain us with things that aren't going to move our needle one iota. If it does, it moves it backwards. Okay, it does. It moves us backwards. They don't give us information for us to work within ourselves. Now we have a black news channel. Okay, it's owned by two white men. It's owned by two white men. It's a black news channel, but it's owned by two white men. And those two white men went out and they got a programming director. And they got people, in their front offices said, look, we're the black news channel, but we can't get too black. So they've got some anchors who talk black, and then they've got some anchors who don't talk black.
Wait a minute.
They've got some contracted people that come in and they talk black, but they're not really on the network. I've been canvassing this network, bro.
So you're saying to me,
yes, sir,
that you've got a network. Well, TV One has there's not many mediums that black people are in charge of anymore. I know Essence was not black owned for a while, and then I think there was a conglomerate of black people who came together to repurchase Essence. I think Ebony was in limbo. We know that TV One has many white people on their board, and we know that BET hasn't been black since Bob Johnson sold it off to Viacom. So we don't really have much black medium. I would make the argument that even though we don't own YouTube, we're on YouTube right now outright. I would make the argument that those of us who use social media to get a message out, that we are, as Jason Black always says on his program,
Tell the truth.
that we are the real and we are the new. I'm not even going to say new. We are the real black media. That's going to be my new mantra. We are the real black media. Why? Because on these social medias, and I podcast as well, we're able to talk about issues from our perspective that we're not going to get in the news. So when you look at what's happening, not to get too far off subject matter, when we look at what's happening in Haiti, I just did a show on that. They're not telling us the whole story. They're giving us song and dance. And then just like Jason Black did on his show yesterday, which I thought was brilliant, he said that they're spending all their time focusing on the black suspects that they caught, the ones that are American. They're telling you everything about them, their name, where they're from, and all the Spanish speaking guys that they got on the floor. They haven't told you one thing personal about them, but they've already told you something personal about the two black guys that they caught. Right. So what I'm saying is mass media or white media has their narrative. Right. And they never give the narrative in a truthful manner, in my opinion, from the perspective that black people, how we see things from our perspective. Right. So anytime you've got black media in mainstream that's been cohort like that, that's been taken over and occupied, they're not giving the trueness because they can't say what they really want to say because they've got a director, a program director that's telling you did radio, brother. You got program directors telling you can't say this and you can't say that. Right. My man Joe Madison from Sirius XM, he said he once, when he was starting out in radio, he used to talk about black issues. And the program director at a radio station that he worked at a long time ago before he became big time, told him, we want you to stop talking about black people. Well, what can I talk about? I'm in a black city. You need to talk about this. See, you got a programmer. See, right now, YouTube could shut your channel down if you cross the line with your things that you say.
Right.
But check it out. When we both went live, there was no program director telling me, you can't, when you interview brother Shannon of the Freedmen Media, brother, you can't ask him this and you can't have him say that and he can't say this.
Right.
There's nobody censoring you. Nobody censoring me. Nobody telling us what we can't say and what we can say. Even though we know these mediums can still try to censor you to a certain degree.
Right.
There's nobody telling us before we went live, now don't say this and don't say that, brother Shannon. You know what I mean?
And it's funny that type of situation stops us from doing what we need to do. But when it's time to grab a picket sign, we'll get out and march. And we'll get out and march not only for Black causes, but we'll get out and march for everybody else's causes. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't try to lock in with other ethnicities or other factions of people, but I've often asked, when do they lock in with us? See, the biggest problem with what's going on right now is that Black people are just tired. We tired and we frustrated and we pissed off. We're a little confused out here because we tried with the Black president. Okay. I mean, let me just go back a little bit before. Let me go back a little bit before. In the 60s, before you and I were here, we were a gleam in our father's eye, but we weren't here. In the 60s, we had the civil rights movement and we had all types of, comeuppance, programs for Black people, the Panthers and different situations like that.
Yes.
And they figured out a way to extinguish all of those within a decade. Okay. I mean, they had already done detrimental shit to us for the last 100 years after slavery. But just think 1960 to 1970 was a bloody year for Black people. Okay. That was a problem for Black people. And we didn't look at just that bloody decade and say, okay, after 246 years of slavery and after 100 years of Reconstruction and Jim Crow and redlining and this, that, and the other, all we got out of this was some voters' rights and another dead Black leader, because that's what they did. Only reason they signed that bill is because Martin Luther King got killed. All right. And the nation was starting to burn. That was the only reason that they signed all that shit. Now, that didn't help us at all. And we can fast forward to now to where politicians don't do anything for us, and there was a brother that he's in the chat room. I believe his name is John Public. He wanted to correct me and let me know that the Black News Channel is not owned by two white men. It's owned by somebody named Shahid Khan. Okay, I guess he's an Arab American, which I have no problem with you correcting me, brother. Absolutely no problem with you correcting me. But you got to understand, Mr. Khan, he doesn't advocate for Black people. He advocates for white people. He is the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, a professional football franchise. Now, I don't know what he did to make his money before he bought the Jacksonville Jaguars, but to own a professional sports team, you got to have bread. Okay. And how many Black professionals? Now, I don't know what he did to make his money before he bought the Jacksonville.
Go ahead, brother. I'm shutting something off.
I was hearing myself. I was like,
no, you were hearing yourself.
Me.
I just went over to Facebook
no
and
problem.
I pulled up the feed on my computer, but I'm sorry about that. I muted it so it's not interfering.
He said it's actually owned by Shahid Khan, a Pakistani Arab. He also owns the Jacksonville Jaguars of the NFL team. Okay, so let's break that down. Shahid Khan, a Pakistani Arab, owns an American football franchise.
Yes.
We've had thousands, I'm talking thousands of people come through the ranks of the NFL, the National Football League, of African descent, Black Americans. How many Black NFL owners do we have? I mean,
we don't have anything.
My problem with this is white supremacy, because he thinks that since he's Pakistani Arab, he's not white. Oh, yes, he is. Right. Oh, yes, he is. I bet you if he's got an American birth certificate now, I bet you his birth certificate says white or Caucasian. Right. It does not say Pakistani Arab. It ain't even got enough character space on a birth certificate in the United States. So I know it says white, because if you're Puerto Rican in this country, when you get a birth certificate, you're white. When you're Mexican, you're this, that, you got to get that actually changed. And it takes a while to get that changed, because if you're not Black, you're white. And you put that down there, and you put that down there for specific reasons. Only people who actually classify them a certain way, if they're not, like Native American, you'll see Asians fight for that shit. I've seen people fight to put their Asian heritage on their birth certificate. Whereas most people, they just say white because they know what they
They're
look
down
like.
for
They don't want to
specific.
be deemed as black. So they're going to go with the other and they're going to go white. Shahid Khan lives as a white man in America. He does not live as a Pakistani Arab in America.
Right. I would definitely agree with what you're saying wholeheartedly. And that's the problem. We have to understand how things operate in this society, how things are manipulated and how we can be manipulated by what we think a person may be or how they're living. But he is not living. He's able certainly, unlike other groups, black people, we can't always blend into society like other groups can because we're recognized. It's just like when I was in college and let's say I'm in a lecture hall, big, huge lecture hall. Black people can never hide in college.
Yeah.
We always stick out like raisins in a sea of raisin bran cereal. When you eat the cereal and you see the little raisins in the bottom of the milk of the cereal, I can be in a lecture hall class and I can come in that class and I guarantee you that professor, he or she, they will automatically know I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 black folks in this class, or 6 or 7, whatever the number is in a traditional white school.
Right.
You stick out like a sore thumb. You don't
Right.
become. They always tell us, "Oh, we don't want to look at you as we want to look at everybody as just students." No, black people. This is why we have a disadvantage when we go to these universities because they know exactly who we are, what we look like. They know when we're in class, when we're not out of class. They can identify our papers, our work out of everybody. And if that teacher wants to be biased towards our work educationally, they can because they can really point us out that this is that black student I got in this class. So it runs very deep. Let me do this before I ask you a few other questions.
Sure.
Brother, let me pull up the chat room and give some respect to people that's in the chat room. Let me say J. Lo Rich is saying, get on it. My job every day. Thank you, Sister Tanya's in the house. Thank you for being here. RY saying that was the entire grade 1 through 12 plus college career standout. Interesting. We always stand out. J. Lo Rich says that. She's agreeing with me. Afro's in the house. She says we stand out everywhere. Now we've got Fly C Soja saying salute fam. Thank you. We got Marcus. We got Michael Ross in the house saying Mr. Nilly Fuller Jr. says that racists are master deceivers. Yeah, and Nilly Fuller Jr. always said this that if you do not understand white supremacy, how it works and operate, everything you think you know about racism, the word racism and what racism is, will only confuse you. So we have to understand how this system operates, how it impacts us, and then we need to understand the tools of solutions that what we need to do to arm ourselves and arm our kids. Once again, we're not saying that despite these things in society that you can't make it as a black man, a black woman, a black child. You can make it. You got to work hard. You got to work hard for the obstacles. But I know for a fact, and all the advantages that I have compared to our ancestors, because we have more advantages today, that there were still obstacles that were put in my way, and I had to go over those obstacles. Right. Had I folded under and be like, oh, I can't do it, then they got you. Right. But I think it's important for us to recognize the realities, and you should not raise your kids in a false sense of safety. You got to raise our kids to be prepared, not to be afraid, but be prepared. That's James Baldwin himself said that if you don't know what happened in your history, your future, your past, if you didn't know what happened in your past, you won't understand what's happening all around you, and you won't be prepared for your future. Now, I've been on panels with black people that'll say, oh, stop talking about the past. Not talking about the past. Come on, man, moving forward. You can't move. You move forward when you understand your history and your past. And no other ethnic group tells their children and their culture, stop recognizing the past. This is weird. Every other group can talk about their past while at the same time getting the bag and making money and all of that kind of shit. And nobody tells them, stop talking about your past. Right. Japanese talk about their history. They never forget what happened to them. Right. Jewish people never forget what happened to them. They tell their kids never forget. Right. But they still do what? Send their kids to law school and get the bag. Right. Black people, we sit up here and we want to erase the history and come up with other things that are not right, that are not factual, because some of us well, some of us, not all of us, some of us, especially your black conservatives, will be the first one to tell you, y'all got to stop talking about that because, see, we can't move forward. Mm-hmm. And the thing that's funny is that as soon as these black conservatives get a taste of heavy racism, where you think they're coming back to? Back to the black community. Look at Stacey Dash. She did all that buck dancing and cooning around. And what she do? I'm so sorry. I want to come back to the black community now. I'm part of you. Go ahead, brother. You were going to say something.
No. I mean, I'm right in step with you here on all of this. You know, we mirror a lot of our commentary, so I don't want to be redundant. I try to come with something fresh when I open up. But what you're saying is everybody gets a chance to talk about their history, but nobody wants to hear about black history. I mean, you know, and I don't get into Black History Month and all this, that, and the other, but you look at every ethnicity that walks through this soil in the United States of America, they have a history that they can go back to and they can talk about. Hell, even Native Americans, I hear all this, well, Native Americans had problems and they did this and the Trail of Tears, this, that, and the other. Well, I can't rock with Native Americans because Native Americans own slaves too. I can't rock with you if you own my people. So there's a problem there. Not that I hate Native Americans, but don't tell me to feel sorry for somebody that enslaved my people. So there's a problem there. And the reason that nobody wants to talk about critical race theory is because critical race theory, it doesn't pit black people against white people. It just makes you tell the truth about what happened between black people and white people. That's all it's doing. And they don't want to talk about the truth. See, here's the thing. We're 50 now, okay? And I brought up something while you were talking here.
Yes, sir.
You were into Tulsa. So I wanted to make sure I did this on my other cast a couple of days ago. Mm-hmm. G.T. Bynum is the mayor of Tulsa.
Okay.
Today. With the 100th year of the massacre, anniversary of the massacre. 50 years ago, G.T. Bynum's grandfather was the mayor of Tulsa. 50 years before that, his father was one of the hellions running through Tulsa, burning us out, killing us out. See, you got to understand, he is a fourth generation Bynum. I think their name is like LaFonte or something like that. Can't remember exactly what the name is. I don't even care. They're racist. Okay. But they've controlled that town for over 100 years. The person who runs that town, grandparents and great grandparents were some of the people who burned us out 100 years ago.
Yes.
But he still is able to get elected in that town. That's white supremacy.
Wait a minute now, brother. That's a deep statement that you just said. Now I'm trying to collectively gather what you just said to me and to everybody in the chat room. And you sat up there and said the man who is actually related to those who burned us out in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the massacre, got himself elected. And this, I'm glad you said that because I remember when I was in college, a lot of the white students would always say, well, that was not me. That was my ancestors. Why are you blaming us? Or they felt like they're being blamed, right? And we clearly said to some of the white students when I was in this class, well, this is the thing. You might not have actually engaged in enslaving some of my ancestors, but you benefit from it. Right. Well, keeping in what you said, you benefit white folks today have benefit, whether they know it or not. And I tend to believe that when an older, let me just say this,
brother.
No. Let me just say this. What I really was trying to, because I was basically going to change what I said.
I got you.
You have older white people who will tell you they don't know. And I'm here to tell you they do know what the hell is going on. They do. But you have the younger white kids that will say, well, I didn't do anything. It was and we'll say, well, you're benefiting from a system that was put in place. So keeping with what you're saying, and you're right, we should not give them any excuses, right? But keeping with what you said, and that is this man basically benefited from what his ancestors did, destroying our communities, because he gained economic and political power through time, and disenfranchisement of black people allowed him. And then another thing that they did in Oklahoma is that they stopped teaching the history of the massacre in the schools to make all the students, including black students, be uneducated to what happened, which is why a person like that can get elected, because you got black folks or the new generation who don't know the history. This is why I must read what Peggy Roster said right here.
Sure,
There's
absolutely.
a term called Sankofa. There was a movie called Sankofa. That's a powerful movie. You got to check that out. It was an
Okay.
independent movie called Sankofa. And Sankofa is an African word which is know your past. To know your past is to know your future going forward.
Right.
And when we have our youth who don't know their future, then they can be what? Then you have people like the man in Tulsa, Oklahoma, who became mayor. He can run an okey doke on you because you don't even know that the blood runs through his vein of those who raped and destroyed your people's civilization that they had there, their community, and that he's riding off the back of that.
Brother,
Because you don't know you're not thinking about Sankofa. You're not knowing your past to know your future. I'll stop there.
so the man that runs Tulsa now, G.T. Bynum, his grandfather, he's the
Damn.
mayor now. His grandfather was the mayor from 1970 to 78, the year we were born. Now, he was 43 years old then. The mayor of Tulsa is 43 years old now.
God.
So think about this. And he was his grandfather. So in 1927, his grandfather was born. So 6 years earlier was when the Tulsa massacre happened. His daddy had to be what, in his 20s, in his 30s, was a main contributor to the burnout of Tulsa. So his family is deeply entrenched. They've been deeply entrenched in the politics of Tulsa, Oklahoma. So they're not the only family. I'm not just blaming the Bynum and the LaFortune family for being our detriment, because what happened with Black Wall Street, as we now know it, what happened with Black Wall Street was crazy enough, but to know about the resurgence of Black Wall Street and then the eventual total decimation of it, okay? Because you do know that Black Wall Street came back. Black Wall Street
Right.
recovered because there were other factions of black businesses around the country sending bread to Tulsa,
Right.
Oklahoma to get those businesses back up, because not only was it profitable, it was the blueprint. It was the
Right.
blueprint to what Black America was going to become. We didn't just have a barbershop. We didn't just have a barbecue restaurant. We had theaters. We had doctor's offices, post offices, schools. We had manufacturing. And that's really where this country makes its money. Well, made its money before we start sending shit overseas. Manufacturing. We built shit. If you build shit, you can control shit. You can't control shit just by buying shit. You got to build shit. And we were doing manufacturing in Greenwood. See, people don't talk about that. They don't talk about the manufacturing plants that we had. But not only that, they don't talk about how we took care of each other. When you go down the old blueprint of Greenwood and they
Yes.
list all the businesses in Greenwood, every 2 or 3 buildings you'd see rooming house, boarding house, apartment house, this house, that house. You didn't hear about no homelessness in Tulsa back then, because the black people took care of each other. If you was on the street, you was on your knuckles, they put your ass in a seat, they gave you something to eat. What can you do? Oh, I can do this. Okay, go down there and get a job. Well, I ain't got no money. Don't worry about that. He'll get you some money. Then I need you to go over here, because you can go to the rooming house and you can stay there until they pay you. Then you can pay them. And they kept that money circulating. Black people
Right.
weren't on the street in Tulsa in 1921, but they on the goddamn street in 2021.
Right.
What's wrong here?
Let me read this by Royal. You're on the money, brother. Truthful,
Tell the truth.
telling the truth. Let me read. We got my man Royal Supreme, and peace to you, brother. Good to see you. I've been seeing you in the chat room. Let me just read a few things from the chat room. He says this: Tulsa is one of the most segregated cities in America. He's not lying. He's saying that you're not lying, brother. I live in Oklahoma City. So he can identify. He's making this show authentic because he says he lives there, and he says this. Not only that, the Brum family were slave owners. That's what he said, brother.
Tell the
They had
truth.
to be. Brother Supreme, they had to be. If the grandfather was born in 27. His daddy was in his 20s and 30s. So he was born in 1880 or 1870. Who do you think his granddaddy was?
Right.
His granddaddy had to be a slave owner.
Right.
So
let me
and they've already said that G.T. Bynum is a fourth generation Bynum LaFortune person. Mm-hmm. So you take back G.T. Bynum, his daddy, then his granddaddy that we're talking about, the great granddaddy slave owner.
Right. Let me read a couple of these chats. We've got Kendra that's come in the house saying, good evening, information man. Thank you for coming in. Now, Royal Supreme says this. They want to shut that conversation down because it leads to reparations. And Supreme, do me the favor too, brother. I want to know what your thoughts are about Sister Fletcher, because I didn't like the way they wheeled her around with her brother. They had this celebration. You had black folks on TV celebrating and dancing. You had Congressional Black Caucus members shaking a booty to African drums, doing all that celebration and symbolicnism. But yet they never, I know she got a check from the committee down there, but the federal government has not cut that woman or the descendants a check for what happened. It's all this, it's a terrible thing. What happened? You guys lost property. They go over the history. And yet, once again, black people are the only people in this society who this country never pays us what they deserve. Even the black farmers are getting screwed over. Now, you're from Oklahoma. Let me give you some history. You probably know this already, brother. I was listening to a program, and this brother on it that was a black farmer said that in Oklahoma, the majority of the farmland in Oklahoma at one time in history was owned by black farmers. I'm going to say it again. I did not stutter. It was owned by black farmers. That's the truth. And he talked about how black farmers were systematically cut out of being able to own their land and sustain their property and their crops, and they got pushed out. See, black people should really be dominating the agricultural systems of this country. There should be tons of black billionaires and millionaires throughout this country, because black people, like other groups who dominate certain industries, even though the Koreans, they stole the hair industry from us because America helped out Korea with the hair industry. But black people should really dominate agriculture in this country. We should be in control of all land and food production in America. God damn it. I would be happy to be an heir to an orange company, right, or collard greens company or something like that, right, or wine company. We should all be an heir to some company, because black folks, really, our labor was in agriculture. Right. That's the truth.
Tell the truth.
Now, Brother Supreme, thank you for those statements. Let me go to the next statement. Absolutely, right here.
Supreme. That's real shit, though. I mean, he's talking stuff as a native of Oklahoma. I'm talking stuff as a person who has just read up on a few things and seen a few things, but he's lived it. And I know other people from Oklahoma, and they've told me that the situation is calculated in Oklahoma. They know that they have to keep that suppressed, because it will indeed lead to not only reparations for the black citizens of Oklahoma, but people should be able to piggyback on that and get reparations and see the government. That's why I believe Joe Biden showed up. I truly believe that that's why he eventually showed up, because, he had canceled. They said the president wasn't going to go there because they had turned down that $100,000 stipend that they tried to give them people. They laced her up and put a goddamn basketball jersey on and some Air Jordans and wheeled her in and told her they was going to give her $100,000. And her people said, no, we don't want $100,000. Then they canceled everything. John Legend was supposed to come in and sing, and all kinds of people were supposed to come in. They canceled that shit.
They canceled it. They did cut her a check, but it was because they gave them pushback. Before then, they just wanted to use them as if they were props. That's how I looked at it. They use our elders as if they're props to push a celebrational product on people, get us all caught up in symbolism. But yet what we need, you had all these black media people down there, but what we really need is for people to be talking about Joe Biden. If you're not prepared to present these people reparations or some process to get them reparations, then there's no need for you to come here and talk. See, black people got caught up in the fact that Joe Biden is the first black the first, what am I saying? The first president, boo-boo on my part, the first president to attend a centennial celebration or centennial event like this. Sure. Obama didn't attend it. Y'all's first black president didn't attend it, has never attended it. and so they got all excited about the great white hope, which is Joe Biden.
Right.
And Joe Biden, all he did was, like I said before, give a campaign speech again. You're already President, Joe. We don't need campaign speeches. We need tangibles, which is you should have been saying that when I go back to the White House, I'm going to write an executive order, special executive order to make sure that the people in Oklahoma that are alive, like Miss Fletcher and the descendants, get some type of reparations. He never did that. The Black Caucus, we didn't hear them beating the pavement about that. We didn't hear anybody beating the pavement. All we hear about is a museum so people can go to Oklahoma and watch black pain live in a museum. Watch black. I'm going to say it again so that they can watch black pain.
Tell the truth.
So, Brother Supreme, he woke something up, and this is why I attain some of my knowledge from brothers like this. He made me dig back into something I had already had. What do they call it? Cookies? I guess I had it saved in my cookies. So it came back up. And 100 years ago, when the Tulsa massacre happened, because we're just honed in on that because it is one of the biggest massacres, not the only. We get lost in that too, thinking that was the worst thing that ever happened to black people. It was one of the most detrimental because it started a barrage of them, but it came after a lot of massacres. 100 years ago, we were 20%.
Right.
Of the farmers. Just 100 years ago, we were 20%. We had 1 million farmers in the country. So if we were 20%, that means there were 20 million. What's that? 20 million farmers. I'm sorry. We were 1 out of 5. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
So that means there were 5 million farmers. We were 1 million of it. Okay. 100 years later, we're now 1% of farmers with about 45,000. 45,000. We had 1 million in 1921, but in 2021, we've got 45,000. So when they start talking about this bill that they got, the $5 billion farmers bill, how much do you think that 1% of the farmers are really going to get? See, what they did was they made it seem like they're going to give it to black farmers.
Yes.
No, they're going to give it to minority farmers. They're going to give it to marginalized farmers. They're going to give it to compromised farmers. When you keep saying it and saying it and saying it, it's going to end up going right back to white people.
Well, you know the old saying that the black dollar doesn't circulate. I mean, we've heard this, that the black dollar doesn't circulate, but this is where I disagree with that. I think the black dollar can circulate. It's just where we spend the money. I think we can circulate the dollar. It's just that what has happened is that we have been culturally conditioned, not just black people, but many people in our society we call America. We have been conditioned to be consumers rather than product builders, product providers. So we're consumers of products, and when we are consumers, obviously you're going to spend money because we've been conditioned to think that we need all this stuff. I was looking at a Netflix flick, and it was talking about minimalism, meaning there were actually people that were saying, I don't need all this stuff. Why do I buy all this stuff and I'm wasting my money? So there are actually people in our society who are saying that they're living a life in which they want to minimize the stuff that they don't need, right, and only spend what they need. And then guess what happens, brother? Mm-hmm. They find out they got a lot more bread in their pocketbook.
You know who that is? You know who that is? That's a conservative. That's a conservative. See, if you're trying to conserve something, you obviously have something. And the reason that Republicans are and they're conservative, the reason why a lot of wealthy people are Republicans, because they want to conserve their wealth.
Yes,
They don't
sir.
want to be liberal with their wealth. They want to be conservative with their wealth. So I mean, we can see this shit for what it's worth, or
Yes,
we
sir.
can just kind of dance around it a little bit. Black people have always been good earners and good caretakers of money. Always. Even right now, our spending habits, yes, we have bad spending habits because we spend them with people who don't spend with us. But we also don't have the number of businesses. So where we disagree on this point that our dollar can be better spent in the black community, where are the black communities? We got black neighborhoods, but where are the black communities? Where is black manufacturing? I love Master P. I love Master P. Never really was into his music. I have a couple songs, couple little catchy tunes that I like, but I love Master P. And I love everything that he does with branding products. I love it. As an entrepreneur, I love it. As a do-for-selfer, I love it. But Master P don't do no manufacturing. So Master P can't put nobody to work. So Master P can't take nobody off that unemployment line, but Master P can make millions by putting his name on something and selling that product to who? Black people.
Right. Let me show you something real quick.
I'm not down in P because P is the shit as far as a businessman goes. But if we're going to gain solvency in this country, we're not going to gain it just by saving and spending more wisely. We're going to gain solvency by repair. See, true reparations will allow us manufacturing opportunities, which we need, that will give us the revenue, not just to start business or to keep businesses held together, but to put real resources out there. The average black business in this country has one employee. The average black business has one employee, the owner.
Right.
So when you think about spending your money with black people, you can do it all you want to, but there's not enough of us in viable situations to where we can spend that money. There's a new company, the Black Bread Company.
Right.
And they're getting ran in some of these posts because I guess their bread is a little bit more expensive than the bread that you would buy at your neighborhood grocery store. Well, why do you think it's more expensive? Because they don't have the buying power to buy all the ingredients that Wholesome has, that Aunt Millie's has, that every other bread company has. They got to buy the best. See, here's the thing. They got to buy the best ingredients for their bread. One, because if they don't buy the best, they're not going to get the best taste. Then two, they've got to do all the marketing, the packaging, and this, that, and the other. And if they're just a bread company, an individual bread company, I don't know where they're housed, where it comes out of, but I guarantee you, they don't have a bread company in every single state. So if I want a loaf of bread from that bread company, it's got to fly from somewhere. I can't go to like a bread place and say, hey, can I get some of that black bread? Can I go to Gordon Foods or Sam's Club or Costco or what? They ain't got black bread on the shelf.
Well, let me, you're absolutely right about that. But that was one of the reasons why I put this picture up here. Let me just put this sister up here real quick and enlarge the screen. People are aware of her. You may be aware of her as well. This picture right here of this sister right here, let me change something in the perspective here so everyone can see this properly. Okay, this is Olivia Robinson. I met her on Haps. She was being interviewed by someone, I think Revolution on there was interviewing her, and then I connected with her on there and I interviewed her. Okay. She actually has a app called Black Dollar app.
Okay.
Where you can find black businesses no matter where you are in the world or in the country, I believe. And you go on there, you download it, you make a profile or what have you, and it allows you to find black businesses that you otherwise would have never known exist or what have you. I get what you're saying, brother. You make a very good point that not all black products are being sold in mainstream areas. Sometimes we don't know where they are, and they're not that many. But I think if we want to start supporting those black businesses that do exist, I think using apps like this and any other app or any other resources that you have would be important. So I urge everybody listening to the I keep thinking about my second channel. I'm so conditioned to the second because I go live over there like almost every night during the week. And so I'm spilling over I'm trying to separate the two dynamics. But to make a long story short, I want everybody to check out Black Dollar app. It should be on your Droid phone, your Android phone, and your iPhone. And sign up, fill out whatever you got to fill out, and use it, because the more people she has that uses it, it benefits what she's doing. It grows her business. And this is a sister that's dynamic. And after talking to her and interviewing with her, she has a TED talk too, brother. You're going to hear about this sister someday.
You know what?
She's going to become big time.
Brother? You know what she is, brother?
Yes.
She is the 2021 Green Book.
Uh-oh.
She is the 2021 Green Book. She is telling us where the black businesses are throughout this country, and she is inviting us to go patronize them. Now, we had to have a Green Book back in the day just to travel, just to work this soil and get across the country and get through the South. We had to have a Green Book. She is our new Green Book. And we not only need Sister Robinson, but we need other people to put this into effect. I tried here. Okay. And let me just be honest with you. I don't have a whole lot of support locally. And I'm not really sure if it's just because I speak out so outwardly. Mm-hmm. And I'm not looking for partners in this. Okay. I'm not looking for partners in this. I'm going to say what I say, because I understand a lot of people agree with what I say. But, you get a civil servant job, you get an educating job, and you get a job that, you got to kind of protect. You work at one of these private universities and you got to protect. Yes. You can't get on my shit and get to talking the way you want to talk. But I got plenty of people that talk greasy behind the scenes. But I'm one of those people. Like I said, my desire is to be free. Mm-hmm. And I look at myself now as a freedman, because ain't nobody telling me what to do. People told me what to do for years, and they told me the wrong shit to do. So this is why I can't allow somebody who's telling me something that I know is wrong to exist in my life. So Sister Robinson, that is beautiful. And I've seen other people put things like that together that really want to direct us towards these black businesses throughout the country, because we're not just fish fry joints. We're not just barbecue joints. We're not just barbershops and car washes and shit like that. We've got some real businesses out here that we really need to be patronizing, and understanding that too. With those businesses, we need to be not only pushing that, she's pushing education. You can see that she's pushing education, not just patronage. See, that's the thing with P. P pushes patronage. Buy my shit, buy my shit, buy my shit. No, we want to help you build. We got 20,000 people over here that need jobs. You buy that plant over there and you manufacture Master P's noodles and cereal and shit, then we can put some people to work, P. That's what we want. We want the manufacturing, because that's the only thing that gets us to solvency. Because once we get those good jobs, what they say, them good paying jobs.
Yes, sir.
Stay there 3 months, get you a bank account. Stay there 6 months, you got you some credit revolving. Get you a couple years in, now you can do what? You can buy you a home. That's the first level to generational wealth. And unfortunately, we're back at the first level. We're at the lowest black home ownership than we've ever been.
Well, let me ask you this.
Of it right
this
now.
This is the man. I hate to say this, but we got to be about truth over here, whether people like it or not. We do have to look at the fact that when Obama was in office, that black home ownership went extremely decreased under his leadership. I don't know if it was his policies or if it was already on the rise of going down and he just happened to be the steward of being president. I know presidents can do things to stimulate business. They don't actually create business. They just create policies to stimulate business, to stimulate opportunity. But we do know that black people lost a lot of home ownership. There were wealthy black people who benefited, that were already wealthy and doing well. But for people that are starting out to try to gain that wealth, there was a lot of wealth that was lost.
He bailed out the banks and he didn't bail out the people. See, that's why we lost our home under Obama, because he bailed out the banks, and the banks had predatory lending in full. I mean, see, you got to understand them arm loans and shit like that in the early 2000s. Them arm loans, you know who that was directed towards, right? That was directed towards black folks. Give us that lower payment, give us a little bit more monthly money. What we gonna go do? We gonna go put that money in the atmosphere. We're going to go buy jewelry. We're going to go buy clothes. These are talking about homeowners. You don't get an arm loan if you're renting. So I'm not talking about people that didn't have homes. I'm talking about actual people that had homes. They went out and bought more shit instead of buying more homes. And here's the thing, brother. If your mortgage is $1,200, but you can get an arm loan and you can knock it down to $800. Maybe $700. Arm loans was cutting some people's mortgages in half. So if your mortgage was $1,200 and you can knock it down to $700, that's $500. You can go do what? I'm gonna go buy me another house, go get me another mortgage, and then put somebody in it. Now I got some income coming in. But see, they didn't tell people to do that. They just said, go get that lower note. Now you got more money coming in. Now, instead of buying that, that 2004 car, you can go buy you a brand new car. Instead of go buy, because that used car still gets you back and forth to work. It gets you back and forth to church. But since you got that extra money, no, you go get you a brand new car so you can go ahead and max out your resources. So you can't do nothing else but spend, spend, spend. And that's all attached to what? Interest rates. Interest rate. Just because they lowered the interest rates on the damn houses, hell, they raised the interest rates on cars. So it balanced out for him. Obama bailed out the banks. He didn't bail out people. He bailed out banks. And that's where we lost there. That's where we lost. And they were able to turn their backs basically on Black America. It was already very difficult for us to get loans with impeccable credit. They'd look at our loan app, look at somebody else's loan app, and be like, oh, okay, this is easy. That's why I always say, if racism ain't got shit to do with it, race ain't got shit to do with it, take that shit about, what am I, African-American, white, Hispanic, Latino, other, take that shit off the application. If it ain't got nothing to do with nothing, why you need to see my social security number so you can run who the fuck I am or who the fuck I've been? How about this? I got a letter of employment. I've got a letter of residency. I've got viable people. I've got reference. I've got all this. Why you need to work with a credit system, or you need to work with this, that, and the other? And I got my down payment to give you for the house. Why do you got to use outside forces to be able to accept me or deny me? That's all white supremacy. Right.
Let me go ahead and acknowledge some folks in the chat room. We've got my man Doug. I've been checking you out, Doug. Doug B. Simple for sisters. He's in the house. Peace to you, Doug. Good to see you here. Kendra has been rocking with us pretty hard, coming over from my second channel. And if you have not subscribed to my second channel, the Information Man Speaks podcast, I go live over there on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. I go hard, try to make those podcasts between an hour and 30. It's been kind of difficult because once I get into a topic, it just takes over me. But so check it out, folks. You over there, you're going to see me going a little bit hard with the content. And then, of course, this channel is more of a weekend channel. I'm getting back into interviewing people, spotlighting various different folks out here. Let me say thank you to Afro. Let me see. We got Maury Smith, who's come back in. We got Southern Breeze, who's been hanging with us very consistently today. So thank you. Fredo is in the house. Thank you for being here. Let me see who else I might have missed that I haven't said anything to. We got Black Cyber Network, who's come in. We got Fly C Soldier, everybody who's come in, and those that are not here right now, Earl Owens, everybody that's going to watch this on a replay. Thank you again for doing so. Let me take over this real quick. I want to say this real quick, that I want all of you to go ahead and subscribe to the channel. There you go. The Information Man Show. Thank you for watching, like, and subscribe, and the whole 9 yards. Now, you know you can catch me on social media, and these are some of my social media outlets. Now, I'm on Information Man Show, Facebook, Information Man IG, Information Man on Twitter as well. You can't see that right now, but there is a Twitter that I am on. So I want to thank you, and I want you to come on over and support that as well, and keep doing what you've been doing. I want to say most definitely that I really appreciate everybody who's come over today and has contributed. I want you to share this video on all your social media. Thank you. I want you to like the video as well. Definitely, again, subscribe if you can. I definitely would appreciate that. And once again, I'm going to say thank you. And I need to do something very important. And that is, I need to give a clap to folks that's in the chat room that's been hanging strong with us all day. Thank you very much. We definitely appreciate that. Once again, thank you.
You got a real active chat room. I mean,
yeah, very active.
I can get something popping in my chat rooms. But you have educated people in your chat room. Not a bunch of nonsense. And this brother Doug B. Simpson for Sisters, I think you just shouted him out. He said arm loans is when you pay the interest for the first 20 years and the last 10 pays the mortgage. And he's absolutely right. I knew mortgage officers. I knew somebody that was directly connected to an arm loan that lost their home because they didn't understand the logistics of it. They didn't understand it because they didn't have 20 years to pay the interest. They had 5 years to pay that interest, and then it blew back up. And then the mortgage payment blew back up past what it was from the original. So they really should have never refied. Okay. They should have never refied it to get that lower payment, but they were all about trying to put a little bit of money away, even though that money was going to come back and have to be used. So understanding this too, what is the percentage of Black Americans that not ever, but that's ever paid off a home? What's the percentage? See, that's a great marketing standpoint. You pay the interest the first 20 and the last 10, you pay the mortgage. You're not paying any VIG, no VIG, no VIG. Who gets to that last 10?
Wow. I don't think I've known of anybody, depending on, what kind of paper you got, whether you got long paper, how long your green is.
Less
I wish I had an answer to that.
15%, Royalty Supreme said. Less than 15% people pay their homes off. Less than 15%.
There we go. It's on the screen right there. Less than 15%. Wow.
Yeah. So you have to figure 9 out of 10 people of African descent don't pay their home off. Where does that house go?
Well, they've always said to us that way you build wealth is through your home ownership or ownership of land. If Black people are losing their property, then that means there's generational wealth going right down the drain. And what I've noticed too that goes hand in hand with this, brother, is the gentrification. Now, I lived in San Francisco for many years, Oakland, and I saw Black communities like the Fillmore or Hunters Point and West Oakland and many places around the Bay Area where Black people own land. In Hunters Point, Bayview right now, over the years, they go in there and they buy homes from Black elderly who have had their homes since day one that Black people got there from the military, because we had a military base in Bayview, Hunters Point in San Francisco. That's how Black folks got there. So you buy it below market value. A Black person sees all this money that they've never had. They sell the house, and now they flip that house around and sell it for even more money. And while they're selling houses and buying houses under Black people, or Black people are losing their property, and as Black people are disappearing in San Francisco geographically, and Oakland, California is down by 25% as it relates to Black population, because Black people are being moved out and further out. In Los Angeles, Black people are being moved further out to Riverside and all these other places. What's happening is that generational wealth is being destroyed and taken away from us, and we're being phased out of the equation, which keeps us from progressing economically. It's happening all around the country, and to the point that there was a movie. I want everybody to watch this movie, and you can see it on, if you got Amazon Prime or anything like that, or you can rent the movie. I want you to watch The Last Black Man in San Francisco. The Last Black Man is a story talking about basically what happened, the gentrification of San Francisco, Black people moving out. It's a young man who believed that his father owned this house, and he goes in the house because it's getting ready to be sold. He's literally living in the house, and he believes that it's a home that his father built as the first black man to come to San Francisco and actually built the home, right? He's under that belief. But it shows you how black people are disappearing in San Francisco, dwindling a very little number. So when people tell you San Francisco got all this culture and all this whatever, no, black people are literally disappearing within the city. I lived there for many years. It's happening. It's a serious problem. They're phasing us out as we are losing home ownership, which means you lose wealth.
And we have very little wealth. So just giving you a hit into my family, and I probably don't have a family member that's actually watching this video other than Frida. I don't have any blood relatives that generally watch my content, but I had two relatives, and one is still living. I respect him a lot, and I don't need to divulge the names. If they ever watch it, they can question it. One was he was a business owner, and the other was a let's say administrative worker for the county. She had what we would call a good paying job, and he was a business owner, and he was a business owner for over 50 years. Okay, they put 3 kids through college. They didn't light the world on fire with ridiculous incomes, but they had steady income, and they owned their own home. Now, they wouldn't have been able to put their children through college with the type of job that he had and the type of job that she had they not owned their own home, because that own home ownership gave them the ability for what? It gave them the ability to get loans. It gave them the ability to take a little bit of money out of their house, which I'm sure by the time the children were ready, my cousins were ready to go to college, they had amassed a lot of equity because they didn't need to take nothing out. All them years, they didn't need to take nothing out, and the house just got more and more valuable. So by the time that their oldest and their second oldest and their youngest went to college, they had money. It wasn't necessarily in their checking and savings account, but they had money in their homes. They had money in 20, 30-year jobs that they had worked, and equity in there. As a business owner, equity in that. See, the trick that they're telling us is that we can't do reparations because how do we pay for all of this? Well, we can start with the check is gotta come. I get it. But we can start with the predatory systems that have been put in place with lending, with housing, with education, and with healthcare.
Right.
Flip all that shit around. And like I said, I can give you data, but I'll run too long here doing that tonight. But I don't believe that a Black American, a native Black American, should even pay to go to school, seeing that we were killed if we learned how to read. We weren't abused. We weren't yelled at. We didn't get disciplined. We were murdered if we learned how to read. So I don't believe that a Black American should ever have to pay for education on this soil. If we got to go to all Black schools, we got to go to HBCUs, send them. I don't give a fuck. Send them. And it's to our detriment that we get all these beautiful Black scholars that come out of HBCUs, and we ain't got no goddamn graduate schools. Why don't we have graduate schools after HBCUs? We only got undergrad. We got to go to somebody else's university to get our credentials. We built them schools for free. We built the HBCUs for free. Why don't we have graduate schools? Why don't we have Black law schools, Black medical schools?
It would be.
We got to go back to them to get our credentials. We did all that work in that HBCU, but then we got to go to Harvard Law. We got to go to Harvard Medical. We got to go to Yale Law. We got to go to Yale. Why? Why can't I go to? Well, I ain't gonna say them because they've been fucking up lately. But why can't I go to Florida A&M Medical School?
Well,
Alabama A&T Law School.
Well, guess what? Some of those historical Black colleges do have incredible law schools and medical schools. I think some of them are top notch, have great business schools, but you don't really hear about it a lot. And a lot of our people, see, we've been taught to believe that the white man's ice is colder than a Black man's ice.
Sure.
So anything that a Black white man has, it's better. So a lot of times our people will go to HBCUs,
right,
and then they'll go on to their master's degree or PhD at the white universities, quote unquote. and they'll think that that is somehow better than. And I also think that it also plays another role here is that black people in general, we don't really support our black colleges as much as we should. When you look at white schools like Stanford, UC Berkeley, even though these are schools that have other ethnic groups that go there that live in California, you look at their alumni,
Right.
their alumni is kicking out some money, and they have a lot of alumni, however, that are rich that can afford to kick that money out. Whereas you have to ask yourself, what are black alumni doing for the historical black colleges? Now I got to give some facts here. Robert Smith, who's a billionaire, I thought he did exactly what I believe is what you have to do. He paid it forward. He took the time to pay for all the expenses and to give those young brothers that were coming out of school at Morehouse, he paid for everything. He said, I'm going to erase all your debt.
Right.
And I think that's the first thing I think that was great. Why? Because one of the biggest things that people come out of school with is debt, which is the reason why some people are saying, you know what, I don't want to go to college. Maybe we should go to trade school somewhere where I can make a lot of money, but not have to have this debt and this albatross of debt around my neck. And that is the downfall. I would say this, I would go this far, brother. I don't think that because as rich as America is, and how productive we like to brag about how we are, I don't really believe that that you should be charging youth money to go to school. Think about it like this. If you let every child go to college or go to higher learning that is capable of handling higher learning, of course, guess what? You might turn out more scientists, more engineers, more whatever, more doctors. Because why? You didn't make it difficult for them to go to school because you didn't eliminate them by what? By you don't have the money. Right. So now that child, that woman, that female, that male, in this case, black male or black female, who might have the cure to a disease or may change our history for the better, they may not never go to school because they can't afford to. Yeah, and that's the shame. Period. And before you say what you're going to say, brother, let me acknowledge a badass trucking babe that's in the chat room because she's been in here and I haven't said her name, but I have now. She says, if you pay one extra home payment at least every year, that knocks a couple of years off your mortgage. Right. More if you pay extra into the principal. So that was something that she said when we were talking about the home situation. Right. But as we get close to conclusion, brother, what were you about to say or add or bring up?
I was only about to, we were on the law school thing because I knew it wasn't that we didn't have any law schools. We do have law schools, but they're not respected. The law schools that are actually up, and we're just doing law schools right here. Florida A&M, Howard University, said I wasn't going to say their name, but I ended up having to say it because I had to get facts. North Carolina Central University, Southern University, Texas Southern University, and the University of the District of Columbia. That's in Washington, D.C.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so think about this. Please just think about this, and I don't know how much longer we got, but reason I say we don't have any law programs, we don't have any medical school programs, because I could have brought up what medical schools we have in the HBCU spectrum as well.
Okay.
We know now black people are not the only people going to HBCUs. But when we talk about that, I have never heard of a white person, and there probably have been, there's some document, I'm sure, but I ain't never heard of a white person going to Florida A&M Law School. I ain't never heard of a white person going to Howard University Law School. I ain't never heard of a white person going to North Carolina Central University Law School, Southern University, Texas Southern University, or the University of District Columbia. These are HBCU law schools. Yes, I've never heard of a Caucasian individual coming out of one of those law schools. Now, the reason is they're not respected as such. They're not respected. They might be respected on that level of the undergrad, but I've never heard of anybody saying, you know, whoa, I got into Texas Southern Law School. No, but they'll say it about Harvard, Yale, Princeton, all of them, Brown University, all of them. You don't hear people getting lauded. When you see these black kids now getting accepting all these scholarship offers, Yale, Princeton, this, that, and the other, those are beautiful. But how come we don't see them flashing the same thing for all the HBCUs? You know, if they got accepted to Princeton, they got accepted to Howard. You know, if they got accepted to Yale, they got accepted to Hampton. You know, if they got accepted to Brown University, they got accepted to Spelman or Morehouse, if they're male or female, whatever. But how come we don't see them? We don't even laud ourselves. And where we lost, all the way back to the beginning of our conversation, 80s and 90s, everybody on TV had to have a black college shirt, a black this, a black that. Now, you just got to have a bare chest and be all glossed up and have chains on and be giving Lucifer a lap dance and running your tongue down another man's throat to get acclaim.
Well, back in the day, I remember clearly because I was involved in breakdancing and pop locking and graffiti art as a kid in my neighborhood. I remember that one of the things that motivated us to want to go for higher education or learning is that most of the rappers, they would perform their videos on black college campuses. And that's where you would see the Morehouse shirts, the Spelman, all that stuff, the Howards, for example, since those are some of the prominent schools. And we would get excited, and I would say, man, you know, it make me excited. And then you would see the girls and you'd be like, wow. And that was the narrative back then when you had the X-Clan, the Public Enemies, the Parish, who's out of Oakland, those kind of individuals that would rap. And the rap was really about empowerment. You remember this back in the day. You would have brothers that would wear the red, black, and green medallions and say to the East, my brother, just like the X-Clan. And then once they introduced, we said this before, as they introduced the gangster rap into the prominent scene, they begin to phase those kind of rappers out, and they begin to push the negative rap that we have with the gangster stuff, which changed the narrative, changed the attitude. And then as you had brothers coming out of the prison system where they would wear their pants sagging because they don't give you a belt in prison because you could take your life, they begin to bring the prison culture of how they dress as they go outward into the community. And then those guys would go to get into the rap game, and they would push the prison culture dress. Right. And now it becomes then all of a sudden mainstream media grabs it, takes to it, and figures that they can make money off of it. And they say, this is black culture. Now everybody thinks that is black culture. And I'm here to say to you right now that this is not a black culture, because black culture has always been centered in dignity, respect. Rap music had a respect to it back in the day. Okay, even with the Grandmaster Flashes and the brothers that told you about what was happening in the streets. But when they would talk about the streets and the gang stuff, they always told you there was a moral to that story, that you was going to end bad for you. So we had respectability as a people. We had dignity. And so they took away the dignity of our culture and made us believe that our culture was this gutter thing. And I'll end here. And now what do we have today to show for it? Damn it, we've got twerking. Black women can twerk their butt on Instagram. They can, and don't get me wrong, to anybody out there to say, don't get me wrong. I like to see a nice body. I've been on social media where I've seen a picture of a good looking sister, and I check it out. I'm not saying I'm holier than thou. I check it out. I check it out like the next man. But that cannot be the only parameter of our culture. See, that the difference between us and some other groups is that there's balance. For every bad guy you see in their culture, every bad person or someone doing something negative, they push forth the positive. Within black society, we're not getting enough balance. We're getting more twerking and all that kind of stuff. And like I said, as a man, I'm going to check it out. I'm going to look and see if I see a beautiful woman. But what we need in our culture is what we used to have, which was balance.
Can I interject there?
Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
So here's the thing. And I disagree with you a little bit about the gangster rap, what led us to where we are today with all the craziness, because it's clown shit that I believe that's out there. Because here's the thing. We had two live crew.
Yes, sir.
We had two live crew. We had 95 South. We had, a lot of the rappers had dancers, and they dressed in scantily clad stuff. I mean, right there where you at, Oakland, right. MC Hammer had Oaktown's 357. There was three of the Kirby's sisters out there in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s.
But when you look at a group, you never, how can I say this? You always had women dancing on the stage and what have you. But when you compare how MC Hammer had his dancers displaying themselves,
Right.
compared to, you never heard MC Hammer calling the women B words and all of that.
And that wasn't Hammer's stick. That was let's just stay where I should have been. This is what
Okay.
I always bring it back home.
Go ahead.
Two Live
Yes, sir.
Crew was just one, the naughty rap or nasty rap or just, explicit rap. That was just one part of hip hop.
That's true.
Two Live Crew didn't run hip hop. They were just one, because we on one side we had Two Live Crew, on the other side we had NWA. Then we had Public Enemy. Then we had X Clan. Then we had what's the brother, the guru that died? Jazz Mataz. I can't think of, but we had conscious rappers.
But remember, the conscious
rappers
rappers got eventually phased out,
right,
as the narrative became less focused on the gangster.
Why do you think
and
that
those
is,
guys
though?
got phased?
Why do you think they phased the conscious rapper out, but they didn't phase? Because what they prosecuted Luke Campbell for, they're letting Nicki Minaj and Megan Thee Stallion, because I'm
away
calling
with
the Stallion on your show, they letting her do it. Where's that censorship at now?
Right.
Where is the censorship for them that we had back for Luke?
I think that they pushed those groups primarily because they wanted to change the narrative. The narrative before was folks talking about they wanted to go to college. People were getting their brains lifted and knowledge of self from some of the positive rap music that was about knowledge of self. They wanted to change that message and that narrative because that was a narrative. You remember, a lot of people were waking up. All right. A lot of us were getting into the whole, we don't like what's happening in apartheid. And I said this to you on your show before. A lot of us were we were acknowledging each other. We would say, peace to you, brother. That's why I always say the word peace. Peace to you, brother. You're my brother. Right. Now they changed the language because it came out of the gangster rap to now we call ourselves dogs,
right?
Bees,
right?
You my N, you my mother effer, all of that. Where did that come from? It came from the pop culture of them pushing. Because I'll tell you right now, if they would have kept pushing the positive rap and phased out let's say everything went in reverse. Let's say they phased out gangster rap and really heavily pushed the other rap. How do you think black people would be talking to each other right now?
Right now,
we wouldn't be calling each other the N-word because.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. If you got another question, I'll take that.
I'm just saying. I believe that we wouldn't be spending a lot of time saying the N-word to each other as much. Because music has the power to enter your self-conscious without your permission. It conditions you every time you keep hearing it. So if we keep hearing in, that's all you hear, that's all you hear, that's all you hear, that's all you hear, then you begin to adapt the language. I'll stop there and let you have the last statements, brother, as we conclude. Go ahead.
So you ask, where do you think we'd be?
Yes, sir.
And a great man in this country, even though he was a devil. He was a demon. He was one of the worst things ever created. I mean, I really wish his father would have left him on the mattress, but he didn't. He made it through. The greatest threat to American society is the United American Negro. J. Edgar Hoover said that. And J. Edgar Hoover did more detriment to black Americans than I've already told you. Joe Biden, he did a lot. But J. Edgar Hoover is the godfather. He's the godfather of doing shit to black people, compromising black people who try to unify in this country. Every black movement, for what he do, 50 years, 55 years or something like that, at the head of the FBI? J. Edgar Hoover compromised more black people than I don't know what. And he said it in a simple sentence. The greatest threat to American society is the United American Negro.
Right.
So if conscious rap had survived, if Bob Johnson didn't sell, if the family who owned the TV won, if everybody didn't sell out, and we had black media, and we had a real exchange out here of controlling our narrative, what this show was about, controlling our narrative, we'd still have people calling each other nigga. What's up, nigga? What's my nigga? But there would have been a consciousness to that part of it, but we would have had more people talking about education, substantive living. See, this is where my problem is. We've gotten comfortable with living like we live in as a collective, not individuals. There's a lot of individuals still trying to make it out on the real.
Right.
And I've got to throw a shout out to the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen, because this collective is fighting for repair. They're fighting for redress. They're fighting for reparations, but they're fighting politically. Okay, they're fighting politically because they got the knowledge, and they're bringing people to the forefront now that need to be talked about. People like Dr. Sandy Darity, he is a icon that we don't talk about enough. You know, we're getting this brother up in years, and we don't talk about him enough. Dr. Claude Anderson, you know, we'll hear Dr. Neely Fuller, we'll hear Dr. Francis Cross Welsing, you know, God bless the dead. We'll hear about them, but I need people that are going to be able to push that political needle for us. They push that conscious needle for us. I get it. But we need people to be able to push that political needle for us. We got Tamara Johnson-Shealy. She down in Georgia about to run against Warnock, and she is all about repair. She is all about reparations. Warnock is against it, and the man speaks every Sunday in the church that Martin Luther King spoke in.
That's
How
a
the
damn
hell
shame.
can you be against reparation and you preaching out of Ebenezer?
Right. That's a damn shame. If he is actually, in fact, pushing that, not pushing, and doesn't want to.
He's against it. He's already come out publicly and said he's against it.
If he's against it, then that's a problem.
Themselves up by their bootstraps.
But that goes back to the what we were talking about before. How we've got people within our own group. We can't function on. We got black folks who just can't function on code. Instead of focusing on what is in best need, you can't tell me, nobody can tell me out there that reparations would not be a good thing for black people. And why would you be against something like that? That's crazy. You know, Walmart, he's making his money. He's got his little status right now. I think it's absolutely crazy, but that seems to be the problem. But let me bring you back to something.
Yes, sir.
As we conclude, brother.
Sure.
This is why I believe in my hypocrisy. What I'm saying is that when I was in college and when I was in school, and I was listening to the X-Clan and Public Enemy and many others like them, the kind of black men that I was around were black men that would say to you out of your mouth when you use the N-word. The brothers that I was around would say, man, I don't want to ever hear you say that out of your mouth again. Stop using that word. I was hanging around my fraternity brother, my brothers in school, and they would say, stop using that word, because of what we were listening to on the music. Right. The music was getting into our brains about looking at the black man and black woman as a positive entity. Mm-hmm. We were seeing what was happening in apartheid. We were getting more into our black culture. When I was in school, we were taking our black studies courses and learning history from professors, and learning things about Ivan Van Sertima, about how black people traveled here 800 BC before Columbus. Mm-hmm. And so when you get empowered with that in school or even out of school, just reading books, and you're around brothers that are empowering you and they're saying, peace to you, my brother. And if you said the word N-word at that time with the folks that I hung around, they would chastise you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But if you're around people who are used to saying the word over and over again and saying disparaging things, and that's all you hear, then you begin to adapt like a parrot and repeat what you're hearing, because that's what your social group, and you know, as young people, you are influenced by your social group. Absolutely. You adapt to what's going to make you acceptable within your social group. So Absolutely. If everybody's talking like that, and that's what accepted, you begin to speak like that. Right. And I say that my hypocrisy is that black people who carry on like that is because the music that's permeated the culture, the movies, and all these things in media. And we can go right on back to Superfly and all them exportation films that introduce a lot of this crap. That's where it all started. That's how it all changed. And so that's how our culture has been infiltrated from a culture that empowers us to be the greatest thing. As a man, you're a father, I'm a father. We should be focusing on systematic programs that develop rites of passage, particularly for our black males and our ladies, but particularly our black males, because they're supposed to be our leaders of the future, right, to build them up. Right. Who's talking about that? I argue that there's very little people who are driving home that point, other than the usual folks that we know, the scholars and the well-known individuals who say, hey, we need rites of passage programs. But we got too many brothers worrying about there's a divide between black women and black men. There's a battle. We're buying into the okie doke of the racist society that we're in, instead of focusing on how we going to create these rites of passage programs within our own communities to take charge of our youth. I'm going to stop right there, brother.
I need more Native Black Americans to be thinking about a computer,
Okay.
and not just Facebook and
Okay.
Twitter and Instagram and YouTube and anything like that. I think we need to be thinking about the computer, and we need to start with coding and programming and repairing and creating on the computer, because that's where this world is going. The reason that there's going to be a desert for employment for Black Americans in the near future is because we are not up on computer education.
Right.
We need to be more computer savvy from the base, not just being able to log on, not just being able to boot up, but I'm talking about being able to take it apart and put it back together. See, there's not going to be a use for a machinist in a plant anymore. It's going to be a use for a computer programmer, because if you can't fix it, we're not operating. We don't have a whole assembly line of humans down there anymore. Those are all robots, and they're being ran by computers. So if we don't learn how to do everything at the root of where everything is going. See, I'm not following nothing that this 78-year-old president is saying. He's trying to get the trains going. He's trying to get this going. He's trying to get that going. You know where railroads are going? Computers. There's not a whole bunch of people out there doing the work anymore. You've got people up in towers on computers, looking at screens. Computers run locomotives. You talk about airplanes and things like that. Hell, what happened over here with the pipeline? They hacked into the pipeline. How do you hack into something that's not a computer?
Right. Let me, you're absolutely right, brother. I give you 100% laugh on that one. You're on the money. You're on the money about that. Before we go, we got Black American television news and information. I'm familiar with Dr. T. Hassan. If I'm not mistaken, he is a professor at Fresno, and he looks at masculinity, black manhood, or manhood, and how society looks at manhood and what it is. And I know that people are saying that our society is changing, and I agree with this to the point that classic masculinity is being impacted. It's being looked at as something negative. And so he talks about, the rites of passage, how young men become men, what have you, through cultural issues. And I know he's a professor at Fresno State University in California, if I'm not mistaken. Let me say this. And we got Tanya in the house. We've got Freedmen Media is in the house. I think you put your thing in the chat there. Let me let me mod you up, brother, real quick, if I can find you in there.
And while you're doing that, here's the thing. I want people, everybody in this chat, you got some intelligent motherfuckers in this chat. Everybody is up on it. Everybody is up on it. And see, the thing is, for us to get to the levels that we want to get to, it has to call for repair. We can't just catch up. Dr. Claude did this 25, 30 years ago. He said white people would literally have to stop today, and we would have to start, and it would still take us 200 years to catch up. We can't catch up. Right, it's about changing the systems around. Right. And it doesn't mean white people are going to get less. They already got what they got. But what you got to do is we've got to come up to where they are. And the only way you do that is with repair. You only change a system with repair. You have to repair the system. You can't just add a bill here. You can't just add this here. You got to repair the system. And that's with reparations.
Right. Let me say peace to OFW Winers. Hey, how you doing? Thank you for coming over. I've been by your channel before. Thank you for coming into the chat room. I got you on the screen there. And I want to thank everybody for coming in. Fly C, Soja, and Kendra's been in the house. Doug is putting some powerful stuff in there. He says 90% of jobs will be eliminated by 2030 due to artificial intelligence and automation. If we don't get with it, if we don't figure it out, we're going to be doomed. And I'm going to say this, brother. I am extremely concerned about black people for the future because I don't know if we're preparing. Now, I'm kind of caught in a quandary here, and I'll tell you why. Because in Oakland, California, you may not know this, I interviewed a young brother who's involved in a program called Afrotech. They have this Afrotech convention every year in Oakland. It's centered in Oakland, where they bring the best of black men, and young ladies who are involved in technology for the future. So we do have a segment of young black people who are getting involved in technology, who we need to acknowledge, because Afrotech is becoming bigger and bigger, and more black people are jumping on board with that. I got my man, George Makem of Urban Nerds Worldwide in Philadelphia, where he's taking kids out of the community to introduce them to science and all these different things of that nature in mentorship. So he's very positive. Then there's brother Q Butter on YouTube, who has the Zion Institute out there in New York doing great things. I'm still a little afraid that some of us who are left behind in this may not be prepared for the future, because Doug is right. 90% of jobs will be eliminated in 2030, meaning they won't need your black you-know-what. They won't need your physical labor anymore, because they'll have machines that can do your job for you.
Period.
So we, as a collective, as a people, need to start preparing our youth and putting them in academies and putting them in programs where they can learn technology. And we need to start supporting programs like Afrotech. I need everybody to look. I gave you some good stuff tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Look up Afrotech.
You hitting people in the chest with information that CNN ain't gonna do. The MSNBC ain't gonna do. These even local news channels are not covering these particular. Q Butter is all over the internet.
Right. This is why
all over mainstream media. How come Don Lemon ain't brought Q Butter on? How come even the Black News Channel ain't brought Q Butter on? I hear Q Butter's name on 4 or 5 podcasts a week.
And that's the reason why Jason Black calls himself the Black media. I'm going to say here, my phrase is real black media, because brothers like you and me and many others on different mediums, whether it be podcasting, YouTube, wherever you do your thing at, or Haps TV, we are reporting and giving real black information that is benefiting the community, because we're bringing up things that you said mainstream media won't even talk about.
There you go.
Like, that's what I'm saying. A lot. So, for example, I want people to go online right now and look up Afrotech. Maybe check out one of my videos on this channel where I interviewed this brother.
Somebody can look it up, put it in the chat so everybody can click on it. See, we're a family here. We're a family here just in this chat room. But where does everybody go once we log off? When you hit stop, and then it's a playback now, and we can't have this dialogue. This is why we need to be here. But I see podcasts with 10, 15, 20,000 people on, and they don't be talking about shit. There's no educational value to it. There is nothing that is going to move our needle one iota. But here we got 44 strong here. We've been up to 60, 70 people live.
Yeah, but check this out, brother. Don't be fooled by that. YouTube plays a little game with people.
You know,
when
they're
not
going to give you the real love. They're going to minimize what you're really doing out here, real traction that we're getting. But here's the other thing with that. We're here together, and we're talking all this right here together. What happens is we'll lose a little bit of momentum if people don't go share this video, if people don't tell people to subscribe to your channel, if people don't tell people to subscribe to my channel, because it leads me back to a question that you asked, and I didn't answer it. Where did Freedmen media come from?
Okay.
See, you said, what'd you say Professor Black Truth says? What's he call it? The black media?
He always says the black media, the real black. He always says this is the black media.
Right. And you say what?
My new phrase for me is going to be real black.
Real black media. My phrase is Freedmen media, because I speak with specificity. I can't speak on nobody else's causes.
Right.
I can't speak on Latinos. I can't speak on this. I can't speak on that. I can speak on Freedmen because we're descendants of this country. We helped build this country. Well, we built this country. So I speak from a freedman perspective. I can't speak just from a black perspective, because there's black immigrants, there's black Latinos, there's black Asians. See, I can't speak from everybody's situation because I've never lived their situations. So I have to speak with specificity. And I know that black immigrants, they got it better than me. Black Latinos, they got it better than me. Black Asians, they got it better than me. Black Arabs, they got it better than me. Hell, black Indians, they vice president. They're vice president.
Right.
So I can't speak for them. I got to speak for me and mine. And mine are freedmen. We
Right.
are descendants of people who built this country, not descendants of people who swam up on the shores of America. Okay. And the problem that I have with civil rights now, civil rights ain't nothing but a redacted document too. Because everybody can come over here and just white out what was meant for black folks and put in gay rights, Asian American rights, Pacific Islander rights, this kind of rights, that kind of rights, those kind of rights. It's the same document. They just white it out.
Right.
It's foolishness to think that civil rights, you have to have civil rights as a gay person. If you are human, you got civil rights. Just because you lay horizontally with the person that's the same sex as you, don't mean you need a whole civil rights bill.
Right.
And if that's the case, if you're a black gay person, you should really be fighting for reparations because you doubly fucked. You black and you gay. So you marginalized on two settings. So to
Right.
see a black gay person be against reparations, man, I don't know what's wrong with you.
Well, let me say this, brother. You're 100% on point there. I agree with what you were just saying. Doug, let me just speak to this. Doug's talking about this is serious, family. Pay attention to the NGO. Doug, I talked about that on my podcast the other night on Friday night when I went over the issue in Cuba. I mean, not in Cuba. I mean, in Haiti. How these organizations, the NGO, is having an impact on countries like Haiti. So we got to watch out for them. It's dangerous, but it's happening. Brother, let me just say here, I want to thank you for coming on board the show today.
Pay attention to the elites discussing the future and the plans for this country and globally.
Right.
Okay, and here's the thing.
Right.
Doug B. Simpson for sisters, I appreciate it, bro. I appreciate it. And pray for Haiti.
Definitely.
Pray for whoever is being marginalized or just being fucked up over there in Haiti. Let's pray for them. My problem is, has anybody ever been in Haiti? Has anybody ever been in Paris? Has anybody ever been in Asia and seen them say, pray for black Americans? Pray for Native black Americans.
No.
Pray for descendants of slavery.
I've never heard anybody.
One day. We send all this out, this energy out to these foreign countries. Who sends energy back to us?
No, I've never.
They'll come here. They'll come here to move us out the way.
Yeah, I've never have personally seen people in other parts of the diaspora of the world make those statements as it relates to black people in America. But you got to also remember, too, that there's a perception that people in other countries have of even us in America. They figure that, well, if you're black and you're in America, that black people must be doing good. And this is how they judge us. They go by the celebrities and the basketball players and all those kind of people that are put on the screen that are pushed globally.
Can we go by Dorothy McAtee? Can we go by Rashard Brooks? Can we go by Ahmaud Arbery? Can we go by Breonna Taylor? Can we go by George Floyd? Can we go by Dante Wright? Can we go by Terrence Crutcher?
Right. I can say this. The Palestinians over there near Israel, they gave some respect to what happened to George Floyd. They've had signs and they've spoken out over there in their movement too. But you're absolutely right, brother. I would never debate that one. I think you're absolutely right. But I think there's a component to how black people are seen globally in the world from a perspective of how they see Americans. And I'll be honest with you. I think the reason why we don't get that, because quite honestly, it's psychological too. There is no value on black life, even in America and globally, and even other black people in the diaspora of the world. There's a thing called self-hate. Even even folks in the world will have the same sort of lack of value for black life as well, because there's someone out there that will argue, well, why is it that you got black people that are shooting each other in places around in America and what have you, and homicide rates and all this other kind of stuff. And I don't want to unpack that too deeply, but we do have people within our own collective who have self-hate, and they turn that self-hate on other black people who look just like them, men and women, and they did destructive. I got a statistic. I'm going to do a show about this, but so it's something that we got to look at. We got to examine how we're treating ourselves, how we're seeing the larger world and society. It all bounces around, but it's all about self-hate, lack of identity, and what have you. But brother,
can I? I just want to respond to
respond to
scholastic.
Yeah,
They said
make a
they were
response,
having
brother.
BLM rallies worldwide after George Floyd was murdered. Okay. Worldwide, they were commemorating a black man being murdered in the middle of the street by police. Okay. Can I get that same love? Do we have to die to be commemorated around the world? For people to lobby for us? For people to march for us? For advocating for us? Why do we have to die for people to do things? See, This is the thing. This was one man. And you got to understand, Derek Chauvin, because they've talked about all kinds of shit since he got convicted and sentenced. It was his day off. He didn't have to come into work that day. We wish he wouldn't. I wish he would have took that motherfucking day off, and then we wouldn't have had to deal with the George Floyd situation.
Well, let me say this. I had made that argument before that it seems like the only time black men are celebrated is when we're dead.
Obliterated.
And when the Black Lives Matter movement was pushed to the prominence, they sort of made it the face of black women and black women of a certain sexual orientation. And then on the Rolling Stone magazine, they showed a picture of a black woman, is the illustration, with a black boy with her, with a shirt of a dead George Floyd, with her putting her hands up with a black boy next to her. And then in the background, you had other people protesting, and you had black men and other people of color in the background.
Right.
And I had a problem with that because I said, wow, it's making it seem as if black men have never stood up in movements. So now the celebration is over a black man's death.
Right.
And they put the black woman front and center with her hand in a fist like this,
right,
showing her looking strong with the absence of a black man next to her with a black child. That's a subliminal messaging that's saying that the black family is only made up of the black woman and a black boy, and there's no black father, and there's no black men to stand up for a black man who was killed. And they put that on the Rolling Stone magazine for everyone to see that. That's a subliminal message. My critical thinking skill tells me it's a bad message, in my opinion, because when you go to Black Lives Matter's website, they talk very little about black men and more about intersectionality and all this alternative lifestyle, so on and so forth. And then you got the women, like the sister that went out and spent all that money buying houses in here, living good off the hog. Yet you got people like Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown's father, who says that Black Lives Matter hasn't given him a dime, hasn't given on the ground activists any money. No. You got Black Lives Matter chapters like in Washington D.C. who have received no money, no proceeds to help them with the movement, and the family had not received anything. Tamiko Mowry, she's this big activist. But then you got who's the young brother who was shot? The young kid shot by the police officer.
Darren Smith, was it Darren?
No. The young brother that was shot in the park playing, and he had a little toy gun or whatever. His wife, his mother. Tamir Rice's mother called out the Black Lives Matter movement and all these activists who are claiming to be activists, who haven't done anything to take that $90 million that they received to try to put it into some of these pipeline groups, these pipeline programs on the ground. And that's a shame. And that's a shame. True. Brother, I'm afraid I've got to end the program.
Absolutely.
But I want you to say your last words. I'm up against the clock a little bit.
I will. And I'll get you out of here because I know you're trying to stay sub 3, I think.
Well, no, I got to get my young one, but I want you to, no. I want you to say, I don't like to say your last words. I want you to say your great words, and we're going to conclude. Okay. I appreciate you once again for having me on, and I appreciate the chat. Like I said, you got intelligent dialogue going on over here. That's why I wanted to come on. I could have actually been at home playing with my granddaughter, but the situation was like, hey, it was going to get on here. Let me get on here and let me talk the truth. But I appreciate you having me on, and I just want people to understand, it's a real process to do politically. I get it. And most of us are not connected directly in politics. So we got to get into our local politics. We got to find out areas that we're in, the supervisors, the mayors, the commissioners, the city councils. We got to get into these people, because if we're going to have people advocate for Native Black Americans, for freedmen,
we've got to know that those people are going to advocate for us, whether they're freedmen, politician or not. I don't care what color you are, as long as you are advocating for my people.
Yes.
That's all I care about. And it's unfortunately Democrats, they've got us 85, 90% deep as voters for Native Black Americans, and they don't do anything for us.
Let's see.
We got to start rethinking our voting strategy where Democrats are concerned, or these politicians better start rethinking their political platforms, because we can't keep giving them our vote and only getting a sticker. That's all we're getting is a sticker.
Let's see. Just this past election, Black women voted. Everybody's heard me say this. Black women voted for the Democratic Party at 93%. Black men who everybody thought was going to vote all for Trump voted 86% for Biden. And when Biden and Kamala Harris got into office, they start talking about immigrants and let's make this crime bill or this bill to protect the Asian population that's being attacked.
Did you say Asians? I missed it. Did you say Asian? What Asians voted?
This is what Asians voted. I have the numbers. Asian voted for the Democratic Party around 27, 24, maybe 30%. Latinos, same thing, around 30 something percent. Black people. But bottom line is this: no other ethnic group. So much for the word people of color, my brother. So much for that word. No other ethnic groups voted in the high numbers of 93% Black women, 86% Black men like us. All the other ethnic groups voted. Their numbers were somewhere in the 30s, high 20s, somewhere in there.
And that shows you too, Asians are going to vote their interests.
Right.
Asians make more money in this country than white people now. So when we talk about closing the racial wealth gap, we be talking about white people. White people are third now. White people are behind Asians and Indians, Brahmin Indians, Kamala Harris's people, Pacific Islanders. That's who we're behind.
But the point is that no, it's okay. The point is that other groups didn't even vote at the high numbers that Black people vote. And when we ask something, we get excuses. Just like when those Congressional Black Caucus met with Biden and they leaked the video where Biden was telling them, I can't do this and y'all better get on board. The Latino population is becoming the greatest growing population and they outnumbering y'all and y'all better get on board with them. He was giving us all this down talk, which we don't deserve down talk because we built this country. We don't deserve down talk. And so when he was talking to us like that, talking to them like that,
unfortunately,
and it said to me,
it was Mark Morial, it was Al Sharpton, it was the same cast of characters that just left the White House doing that voters' rights thing.
Right.
He talked to them the way he talked to them because those are his buddies.
Right. But at the same time, they try to present themselves as being representatives of the Black community, which is falsehood because they're not speaking what we want to really hear. No. That's why you won't see any of these people come to our channels and talk to the real people on the ground and talk to us about our perspectives. They stay on CNN, Fox News, and they go to all these little fancy media outlets where they can talk and get their butter biscuits, but they won't come to an Information Man show. They ain't going to come talk to a Jason Black or Tariq Nasheed or any of these folks. They're not going to talk to them because they know that they're going to be exposed. If they come on our panels, if they come on our shows, we're going to expose them, and our audiences are going to expose them as well. Mm-hmm. So with that said, brother, look, we're going to have to do another. I'm going
to do a live tonight. You done got me hot and heavy. I'm going to do a live tonight. I'm going to use the bathroom, and I'm going to ramp back up, and I'm just going to get on live because
all right.
And if you're available, and you once you get your little one, because that's always first and foremost, take care of our families. Once you get your little one, you see it up and running, get on here because. Brother, this conversation needs to continue and continue and continue.
Right.
And I want people to understand we ain't in competition out here.
No, we're not. But look, brother,
we're talking about the same thing. We are not in competition out here. Right. We need to be galvanizing so we can build our own platforms. So we don't need YouTube. Much respect to YouTube, but I don't want to be on YouTube. I want to be independent of YouTube. And that comes from Tony Delaramie, the TD Hip Hop Media. That's another brother who needs to check out because he's serious with it too. He's not even a native Black American, but all he does is talk us up.
Yeah, I think it's good to create your own websites and
Yes.
but let me like I told you before, there's also Black Junction TV that's Black owned.
Yes,
You can
I joined
upload
that.
your videos over there. And the brother, I talked to him personally, interviewed him a couple of years ago. And the reason why he doesn't have live streaming over there, because of course it costs money. And he was asking Black people to support Black Junction TV in order for him to be able to deal with the bandwidth expense, because he doesn't take corporate money. He said, if I take corporate money, they'll be able to censor what you say. So because I don't want you to be censored, I don't take corporate money. But Black people, I have to be honest, are not supporting the platform as much as they should, because we like the shiny toy of YouTube. I get it. I upload videos over there, and I also pay the brother money each month to support what he's doing as best as I can. But that's what I'm going to do, brother. This deserves a part 2. So we'll get back together sometime soon and do a part 2 show.
Yes, sir.
And if I have the opportunity, I'll tap right on in and see what you're doing on Haps tonight.
Yes, sir.
And let me say peace to everybody in the chat room. But let me say thank you for coming over. So I have to start with a clap to you, brother, and everybody in the chat room. Thank you. And let's do it again, brother. It's been we touched on a lot of issues. Of course, like, you know, I'm not expecting anybody to agree with everything I'm saying. I'm sure there's things that I said that you may not have agreed with completely, or some things you did, but that's the reason why we have different experiences and different perspectives, which is important.
Everything we say, we're doing it wrong.
Right.
If we all in agreement in here, then we're doing it wrong, because that's what's happened. The Democrats want everybody to like us. The Republicans don't give a shit if you like them or not. They're going to make a move.
Right.
And that's the problem with the political parties now. The Democrats want to be friends with everybody and kumbaya. Republicans don't give a fuck. They set the policy, you like it or you lump it. That's it. And that's where Black Americans need to be. That's why I say we need to be looking at a different situation from the Democrats.
Right.
We took that 34 million voters away from Democrats. Joe Biden ain't sitting in the White House, and Kamala won't get elected when she runs in 2024. Take that 34 million and put it into the independent party. That makes a political race way more interesting.
Let me tell Southern Breezy that I think I've put his link in the chat room, but check this out. All you have to do is go into the description of this video right now and click into his link. It's called Freemen Media. Freemen Media is where you will be able to find him. He's also on Haps TV, where he broadcasts into all of his social media, going live. He's going to go live over there in a few minutes. So check out Freemen Media. That's the YouTube channel. It's in the description of this video. You can click into it and subscribe if you like. I definitely would like you to subscribe and support the brother. Support this channel too if you haven't. Southern Breezy, if you have not, check out the Information Man Speaks podcast. I go live over there Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday night. It's a more of a nighttime podcast show, and I go into things very heavy over there. So thank you again, brother, for coming on. I got to get ready to get out of here.
Seed, man. Go get your seed, and we'll holler at you a little later.
All right, brother. Take care of yourself,
right,
brother. Thank you for coming on again.
Thank
I thank you. All right. There it is. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there it is. That's the brother right there himself. I told you it was going to be a good show. I'm glad that the brother came on. We were able to unpack a whole lot of content, a whole lot of information, and I hope that you all got something out of this today. Once again, share the video on all your social media. Definitely would appreciate that. Thank you for being with us. I know it was a long live stream, and I'm hungry. I'm tired, the whole 9 yards, but I enjoyed myself, and I enjoyed being on with this brother 110%. I got to tell the truth. So with that said, everybody in the chat room, take care of yourself. Thank you for coming over. Badass Trucking Babe, thank you for coming over. Doug, Earl Owens, everybody. Hawk, I see we got Hawk in there, the brother who made some good points. So that's this. Thank you for being in here. Everybody, Tanya, just everybody, Kendrick, everybody that's been rocking hard. So I'm going to get ready to get out of here. Take care, everybody. Peace to you.
Tell the truth.
You are listening to Information Man. Please make sure to subscribe to his channel.
Tell the truth.
You are listening to Information Man. Please make sure to subscribe to his channel. You are listening to Information Man. Please make sure to subscribe to his channel.
Tell the truth. Tell the truth. Tell the truth. Tell the truth. Tell the
Take care, everybody. Thank you.